I have a legend with me on the desk here. So hyped to introduce him. Prion has studied DBDL like DBD like you guys study your scripts at university. He knows everything. He can explain everything. So he is the best possible caster for the grand final. So I'm happy, and I know he wants to talk about his prediction as well. So Prion, welcome in and take it away.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Dyer. It is quite an honor to be here for the grand finals, as we are already seeing a first hit from Pedro onto Zeno there at this edge map tile. And while this chase continues, my prediction is the exact same as Flightless's on the desk, 5-2 Invictus. So continuing this chase onto the front main pallet, there's already going to be a body block coming in from Elysium. Marco taking up an injury there, but that allows Zeno to make the shack. Dyer, these body blocks are going to be so important here for delaying Pedro's pressure.
You really want to make sure, right, that the first chase sets down the sign. So Elysium wants to start with a little success here. Last weekend on the Sunday, it didn't work out so much for them. So the first chase and the first down really holds some mental power here. Pedro trying to block it, but there's the axis, and actually Marco just ignoring the pallet, skipping it towards the shack, wasting more time. First generator coming out here, wasting more time with the vault as well. Finally we can get rid of the shack pallet, and Marco, he is ready. Marco is here to fight. What a great first chase. Eventually the down is coming through. Prion, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see a second generator in just a moment here.
Yeah, that was a really good start for Elysium here. Wraith Dead Dog Saloon, it is one of the most difficult sets to play in competitive DBD. Not only were they able to get that first gen out of the way before the down and the hook, the pain resonance not going to be very useful there for Pedro, and also they were able to heal Zeno in the background. Keeping all of those survivors healthy is so important. So now Zeno going to be stuck here at a very unsafe pallet. Gonna take a hit over that pallet there, but it's gonna make it over to another resource here. Playing around this middle of the map is Pedro. Does he really want to commit all the way to the water tower though? You can see that he's looking back. He wants to figure out if somebody's going for that save on Marco. Chooses to remove that water tower pallet with the Shadow Dance add-on, and is going to go back towards the hook here. I think Pedro, he's making a judgment call here that they don't have very much gen progress around the map for Elysium, so not really going to be committing to any chases here. He wants to make this unhook onto Marco painful, but actually Zeno, the injured survivor, is going to come in and get it without it being a trade. So another huge play for Elysium here. But it's now down to Marco's chase. How long will he last? And what a greed there, Dyer. He holds W away from the pallet, knowing that he has another filler. And Marco is really playing these chases well so far.
Yeah, Marco is ready. This guy came prepared. He entered the DBD gym this morning in order to prepare for the grand final. Fantastic play so far, and my concerns about the second generator is also no longer valid. A swing and a miss. Marco needs to be stopped. Pedro, we need to find some way to get this man down on the floor eventually. That's now the case. Far on the edge map behind the gallows here. 3 generators completed, and a 4th one is already getting prepared with a duo lineup as well here. So that's some significant progress as well. Also nice to see that the Elysium survivors are not overcommitting to these generators. They try to find safety in the houses section first. They want to see again where is Pedro going for, and then we can basically react to that, right? So it really feels like at the moment that Elysium's survivor team is under control of what's happening here on the Dead Dog Saloon. The reset coming together, really playing it safe, not too overconfident. Basically, we love to see it. Back on the generator as well, on 70% already. So far, I would say things are going according to plan here.
Yeah, Elysium heard my prediction, and their survivors have come to play today. Just such a good start for them so far, but Marco unhooked for the second time here, Dyer. This is where things can start to go wrong for Elysium. Gonna need to have a body block from Pedro HZ here if he's gonna stop the tunnel out. But Pedro, he's gonna get past him, but he swings and misses at Pedro HZ. Unfortunate there, and that's gonna allow Marco to make that wagon pallet. Now, Pedro he's making a judgment call that he can't go for the tunnel out anymore. He wants to go and try to stop this gen that Xeno is working, but he's going to finish it in his face. One gen remaining here for Elysium. This will be a pain res for Pedro, but there's a lot to worry about right now. If you are a fan of Invictus, that tunnel out is about to be healed. Not going to be able to find that reset. And I do believe the gens are not really assembled in a close pattern, are they, Dire?
It is going to be on edge. I really agree with you with the worries of the Invictus fans. I mean, we shouldn't expect any dark times today during the grand final because they do have a nightlight to brighten it up, but hopefully we will see a little bit of that effect coming out onto Pedro here, because usually what we very often see on the Dead Saloon is that the Wraith is capable of getting a tunnel out, because very soon the resources are going to expire, especially in difficult areas like the gallows. But as you mentioned, getting stuck here, and that means we also don't get help coming out. Elysium just sacrificing Marco for the triple in the distance, but now realizing that's not going to be enough time, so they have to spread up one more time, and this is potentially also the last and final chance for Pedro to take control here. That would have been a huge down onto Xeno, but it's denied. We have the repressed onto that generator, so we want to make sure
alliance Dire, I feel like that's a misplay.
Bit of a counterplay, right?
I feel like that's actually a misplay, because that's the most progressed generator. I mean, yes, it's going to deny Pedro from kicking it, but Pedro doesn't have any gen kicking perks. This is just giving him more time to go and confirm the kill onto Marco.
Interesting play here. Yeah, the idea definitely, we don't want a little setback from Pedro here, but it does actually turn out to be tricky. That's definitely something for the analyst desk after this trial here to debate on the matter if that was a good choice here, because now, Prion, we also have the issue. This hook, yeah, it's on Xeno, not bad, but it's right next to that generator. So now we kind of helped Pedro to gain control over the area where our most progressed generator is, and that's usually pretty problematic.
Yeah, this is definitely buying a little bit more time for Pedro, but crucially, Elysium were able to heal that tunnel out survivor and pick him up. So Marco now, we're going to get hit through that pallet there, but that repressed alliance play has allowed Elysium to spread out over the map and get significant progress on two different generators. I think because that repressed play did not result in Pedro getting his tunnel out onto Marco, now it's in the favor of Elysium, because they're going to be able to finish one of those two generators that are so far apart on opposite sides of the map.
Pressure is too high, unfortunately, for our Wraith here, even though he's bringing out the new DLC skin for $12.99. The triple cut of Wraith, basically, ladies and gentlemen. Oh! Xeno taking an unfortunate hit through the pallet there, but that's going to be the final generator. And Xeno is really not the survivor that you want to pick up right now and get one more hook stage. We're looking forward to Silhey or even Pedro in best case, because that's an injured survivor already, and we are successful. So at least the end game could spread some good news for Invictus here.
Yeah, Pedro here, he definitely wants to slug those survivors that already have hook stages on them. Pedro HZ here in the corner, going to go down there. That is a fresh hook survivor. And it looks like Pedro is going to go for the pickup onto him. I mean, in this situation, you do want to just be securing as many stages as you can, especially those fresh hook survivors. You see Silhey there, the other fresh survivor, finishing the unlock of the door there, and that is going to result in that fresh hook getting out. Pedro HZ put up on the hook. That's going to be a third fresh hook for Pedro. And overall, Dire, if Elysium were to take their outs right now, I think this would be a very good result for Dead Dog Wraith Survivor. But it looks like they are going to try to send in one of those Death Hook survivors to trade for Pedro HZ and get a little bit of a better survivor result here than they already have.
Yeah, and sometimes in Season 10 we have learned that playing risky can be tricky, because afterwards you're looking to a worse result. But let's see here, Elysium seems to be confident. It's not the absolute impossible task. Pedro just staying calm for now. You really don't want to injure too early. Now that's the case with a very quick unhook here. Full commitment with the build and off they go. Pedro first now making an extra turn around the shack. Potentially the hatch play, question mark. What are they going to pull off here? And Pedro, is he losing track, Prime?
He's actually almost lost track for a second there because of self-preservation, the Yunjin Lee teachable perks. It's not often seen for sure. But Pedro, he's actually going to get body blocked here. The Deathhook survivors are trying their best to block. If Zeno goes down here, or maybe Marco, this is really good for Elysium, and they're all going to make it out the door there. Really good altruistic play from Elysium, and wow, Dyer, that is a statement from Elysium's survivors here. 4 out on Pedro's Wraith, and just what a start to this grand final tiebreaker.
And now I really want to hear what the analysts say about this repressed alliance play. Sorry, Q, if you had other questions prepared, I don't care right now. I want to hear the answer to that.
I think we'll actually throw that in the mix for sure, but holy cow, what a performance. First off,
over that these Invictus survivors are like a tank with their consistency. If anybody has the potential to beat a 5 stages 3 fresh win condition here, it is going to be Pedro, Dan, Spitz, and Rocket here on the survivor. Zeno already in first chase here with Pedro, the killer player from last round, and he's going to just get stunned up by an unsafe pallet there. Honestly, I would have done the same thing. You kind of have to just walk through pallets against some of these insane 1v1 players. Let us not forget that Pedro is #1 on the DBDLeague ladder.
Yeah, and this is what we need to see now, right? To make sure it all comes together here. Rocket, Spitz, Dan, and Pedro. What a dangerous survivor roster, and that doesn't even include Nightlight yet, who's also waiting there for his first game of today. Off we go with an injury onto Dan the Man. Quick find here into the snow wall, just making sure that we waste a little bit of time dropping the pallet, and we already see the team play is coming out here as well. That's going to be Pedro taking a hit for Dan, making sure they both stay alive here, going over towards the shack as well, where you can really once again waste some time onto Zeno here. Good, but that's going to be a difficult mind game here, just holding W away and making sure that we need a little bit longer. Someone dropped there from the gallows. Yeah, Zeno caught that. So Spitz, unfortunately, not able to get the pallet safe for free, but they might be able to turn this into quite a time waste.
Yeah, Zeno here, he's going to benefit from taking this chase onto Spitz because he's got that Ruin, a huge totem build here coming in from him. Going to be a injury onto Spitz there. Good start so far for Elysium, as long as there's not somebody here to save on the pallet as Rocket gets found hovering nearby. He's going to make it to a pallet, but I'm not sure if he's going to last much longer while healthy. As, I mean, it seems like Zeno, he really wants to clear the area of all Invictus survivors before he goes for this pickup. He is rightfully afraid of a pallet save, as these Invictus survivors have been so consistent at getting them, and that's actually going to be the pickup coming in onto Dan. Rocket there, even shaking his head at Zeno there, saying, why are you so afraid of the pallet save? We're just going to pick Dan up, and that's going to be the first gen done. Dyer, this is really interesting because that was such a good start for Zeno, but now seems to be going in the favor of Elysium.
Yeah, we are also doing some housekeeping
Invictus,
here, removing some pallets, and it is crazy what they pull here. Dan also... I was about to say, that was a little bit too obvious. You cannot just jump out of the locker like a rocket. Zeno going to smell that, especially because Zeno is kind of the person that also sets up for the same place, right? So he kind of smelled that from a mile away against the wind here. Zeno now on this pallet. That's also a relatively strong one, but the firecracker is not going to do any harm. Rocket, unfortunately, not able to use this windmill here into his advantage. Comeback, question mark. I still feel like very good early game so far from Invictus. We do get the hook now, but we have a generator completed. We have the reset in. We have the new Wraith skin applied. So it looks like a good trial on the Dead Dog Saloon so far.
Yeah, and allow me to shed some light on kind of what's going on in the Invictus comms here. They're working out what Xeno's build is, and the most important things they're going to be noting here, no Sloppy Butcher, no Bamboozle. Those two things are going to be huge for how Invictus chooses to play these chases and how willing they are to go for body blocks. They know that the resets are going to be normal speed, and they also know that they can greed windows back and forth over and over because there's not going to be any Bamboozle coming in. It's the crowd control instead, which is why we saw Dan slow vaulting so many windows in chase, because crowd control only activates if you fast vault them.
And look at that dangerous UI on the left side. 3 generators getting progress there. Dan and Spitz working on 2 individual generators actually, even though it looked like that's 2 individual ones. So it is, yeah, it is 3 generators that are currently getting progress there by the Invictus survivor. 1 over here at main, also with a nice spread. I feel like you could potentially even let Rocket go into second stage, but Invictus not opting to do that for the optimal pressure here, but a little bit of a short issue, and immediately fixing that. What a perfect play here from Invictus. It didn't work out with the body block on the survivor side, and immediately the survivor is rotating a little bit over to the left, making sure that it's still not ending up in a trade. Brilliant play here, and the block coming out as well from Pedro. Yeah, hello, Xeno having throw much against him and slowly starting to struggle to defend these hooks and getting the downs together here. If Invictus resets now again, even before another down is coming through, they are off to something really big here.
Just incredible survivor play there from Pedro. When the body block went wrong, he was able to position himself there to make sure that Dan was not traded out on that unhook. And it results in their tunnel out getting away. I mean, he's not even a tunnel out anymore, Dyer. He didn't even go second stage. This is so good for Invictus. And now you've got Rocket here, the only survivor with a hook stage, hiding in lockers. There's gen progress across the board for Elysium, and Xeno has just lost all of his pressure here unless he can find these resets. But he's going to find 2 healthy survivors once again. Just time and time again, Pedro here is coming through for Invictus on the survivor side, and the killer side for that matter. As Spitz now in chase at the main building, going to vault that main window, and here comes Pedro again for a body block. He is 1 hit away from getting that Medal of Man charged too.
And like when I see this, I sometimes feel like Invictus is secretly playing with 8 survivors, so 2 Claudettes, 2 A's, so we don't notice, because the resources they are capable of pulling together and how easy it looks is actually insane. I don't think Pedro is going to make that. We have the Medal of Man actually
devastating
ready.
Medal of Man activation.
Never mind. Even when you think they are in the corner and there's no other chance anymore, than they have something in the back pocket. Well prepared with the protection hits throughout the trial. Very well done. Now eventually the down is coming through. But geez, that's been a long time. They do get another reset in. Rocket is progressing the generator, so we need to find a good balance between all these resets and progressing the generators here. But so far, with how they play, looking at the confidence, it's crazy.
Yeah, getting that Medal of Man to go off in the main building is just perfect for Invictus here. That bought Pedro so much time. He is going to get hooked in the basement here, but that is only the 2nd hook stage for Xeno. It's going to find Dan over here at this generator in the corner. Dan probably eventually going to take a hit here. That is going to be Pedro unhooked from the basement, but still, we are no closer to getting a tunnel out Dyer, as now Dan going to be in chase at the shack. This is shack with no pallet. There's also no bamboozle in play, so the door is going to be kicked out by Xeno. How is Dan going to play this? I don't believe he has many resources here. He might need a body block or something, as it looks like he's just going to hold W over towards a filler pallet. Not quite gonna make it though. I mean, there wasn't really much else for Dan to do there without a body block. And Spitz there, wastes a pallet there. Just, I guess, going for a pallet save, but Dan, he just was nowhere near close enough for that to be a pallet save.
Yeah, and slowly but steady, you might notice some worries in the back of your mind, dear fans of Invictus, because you will ask, where are the gens? Rocket will get another one out of the way, but it's still 2 more to go. And we need to remember, we are not talking about the most incredible number of hook stages that we can afford today here. So that might be a little bit of a problem, especially in case Xeno plays a very solid end game. And now with Spitz going down relatively close to the hook as well, we do find ourselves in a little bit of a tricky situation. Pedro has another generator close to 75% now in the distance. That is exactly what we need here. But Prion, I can't ignore the fact that Xeno is definitely taking a little bit of an advantage now and looking a lot stronger.
Yeah, Xeno is getting closer and closer to this win condition, as we must remember it is only 5 stages, 3 fresh, got by Pedro in the last trial. And oh, a swing and a miss there is going to result in that not being a trade for Rocket. I don't know if he has any other resource to play here, but that is definitely good for Invictus, as Rocket not going to make another pallet, and he will go down, but that won't be a trade. So a little bit more time bought for Invictus, as Rocket now going to be hooked on his second hook. That is actually going to be 5. I think, Dyer, is that the win for Elysium? I believe that was the 5th hook stage on 4 fresh. Or no, he never hooked Spitz, did he? He
No,
slugged
that's
him.
4. We have on 4 on 3 at the moment, so we basically need 1 more hook stage onto Spitz. Then it would be the 5 stages on 4 individual survivors, and then we are good to go. Or we just progress Rocket into elimination and then get another stage onto Dan or Pedro, because then we just outnumbered with 6 stages. That's the 2 options that we have here for achieving the win. And it looks like Dan is also saying goodbye very soon. Hello, Mr. Vaulting this very unsafe window. And that's going to... Oh, yeah, they have to go for it, though. We need to be fair to Invictus now. That is not a little bit too greedy. That was basically one of the final chances here, right? If you let the hook onto Dan happen, you're already on the tie condition, and then it's just basically face cam possible or anyone during the end game. So trying to go for the flashlight save was the correct play here, as it was almost one of the last and final chances. And now if things fall apart, well, basically the set was lost anyway, but that confirms it. Elysium is taking set point number 1 as a start into this best of 9. And I must say, I wasn't expecting that on the Wraith, and especially not with how much confidence they came in here.
Yeah, and I'm sure the analysts will have something to say about this as well, but Dyer, I feel like this set was won by Elysium's survivors. I mean, we're really not seeing too bad of a result from the Invictus survivors here, considering what usually happens in these Wraith sets. But the Elysium survivors just played out of their mind against Pedro, and I really think it's to their credit that Elysium is now up 1-0.
Yeah, and when we already talk about the survivor side, I think it's safe to say that Marcos deserves a special shout out here after set number 1. Of course, Xeno as well for taking the responsibility afterwards as an individual on the killer side here, but Marcos was really standing out there in trial number 1 as the opening run of the grand final, right? And as we mentioned, it does set the tone and it does set the momentum for the rest of these matches, and Marcos looked like he was so ready, and it's good to see that it has such an effect that we make it over here. Another info from the background from our tournament analyst is that this was hook stage 100 for Spitz, so achieving a little bit of the anniversary there in set number 1. Analyst desk, time to talk about what happened here on set number 1 and how is it potentially influencing the rest of our best of 9.
Well, first off, I'm not sure what resolution y'all are watching that one in chat, but it does indeed look like a 4K to me. Talk about, before heading into trial number 1, Flightless, you had mentioned how we could see 5, 6 stages, or could see us 4K. We got to see kind of a little bit of both, and I wanted to talk about the build a little bit here, because while you did call the build going into trial number 1.
To your situational awareness to the communication, and it seems like we do have someone around here that's going to be a Nightlight taking just the M1 here. It doesn't make any sense for Xeno to just go for some stalk here, and just wants to get the first down, potentially also to kind of start this to-do list on the survivor side. You have to go for an unhook, you have to consider a reset, especially with the sloppy there. You will gain some extra time, and now pulling away again, Nightlight will communicate that he is no longer in the chase, and Kexo taking an 80% stalk there into the distance. So we already have our first candidate who needs to be really, really careful from now on.
Yeah, 80% stock there onto Kexo is huge for Xeno. We'll have to see if he's able to use that later, as now he's going to be revealed there by Dan. But Dan takes a tag through that pallet there. And it's going to be the Call of Brine Eruption applied to the gen. And this is where the survivors of Invictus are going to need to start playing it slow. Dan and Nightlight, they need to get reset. It's going to be a little bit of stock onto Dan, but that is an injured survivor there. So Xeno going to leave, and actually the pathing there, he just comes out on top of Dan. Dan loses track of the killer, maybe doesn't know that Xeno is still on him or not, and that's going to result in the first down there. And that is part of why these Ghost Face sets are so hard. It can be impossible to tell whether he's still on you or not, whether he's tracking you through rooms, breaking line of sight. These chases are just so, there's so many layers to them, Dyer, and that's going to result in Dan up on the first hook there at 5 gens.
And if I'm not mistaken, we do have half of a generator there in the distance. Besides that, not too much happening yet. Nightlight is also still injured, so that tells us a little bit where the priority is up at the moment. And Spitz now, he needs to show us a great chase. They call him the German movement and the German ping for a reason. Little bit. He really wants to get back towards that generator over there, but Xeno doesn't allow it. Now switching one more time after Dan has been rescued, so we try to find our next victim here. Kexo and Spitz now on 75%, and Dan in the pallet here. Was that intentional for a pallet save? The answer is no. He was actually unaware that Xeno would come out behind him, so that's huge now. That's the second one already, which also means that Xeno is moving closer and closer to removing a survivor from the stage, and that on 5 generators still standing. An incredible start for Xeno.
This is extreme danger for Invictus here, Dyer. Not only is Dan close to being tunneled out at 5 gens, they have 2 survivors that are over 75% stock. Who are you going to send for this? They're going to have to really get a read on where Xeno is, keep track of him at all times, reveal him from that stealth, or this really could be the nail in the coffin for Invictus, as the mark is going to come in there onto Spitz, and he's going to take a trade. Dan off the hook, but Spitz exposed and marked on the ground. Dan, now, how long can you last? This is the most important chase of the game for Dan. He's got all of the good pallets to play here, though, Dyer. And this is one of the important things about this Ghost Face set, is how can you force this killer into a long M1 chase if you deny him that stealth opportunity and force him to play these good pallets as the basic M1 killer that he is. These chases can take so long for this killer, and that's where the survivors start to win. So Dan out of chase now. Xeno puts on that stealth and is going to make Dan wonder whether he's still on him, and now Nightlight caught on the generator. And that's going to be another down there. Honestly, that was a really good play from Xeno. They would think that he really wanted to confirm the kill onto Dan, but instead goes for Nightlight, and that's going to be a lot of pressure there with Nightlight on the ground and Call of Brine on that really progressed gen.
And it is also huge for Elysium when we look at the overall picture, right? We just pulled set number 1. Marcus came out here, immediately putting out the pressure on the Wraith. Now Xeno taking the responsibility on this Ghost Face set, which we pointed it out, the analysts pointed it out, can really go either way. And you have set yourself up so far for a pretty good trial. The question will be, are we actually able to remove Dan from the stage as quick as possible? We found him again, 75% of stalk there. Invictus Survivor Comms must say right now, God damn it. How can that happen? We need to make sure that he's staying alive for a little bit longer, or they do slam the generators, and Dan shows us an incredible chase now. But we really need something back onto Spitz now, who is injured here. So a little bit pressure from the down door. Hopefully that will be done quickly. But we do have a pallet over here. Not sure. I feel like if we would have followed Dan there and getting the elimination, that could have been a valuable play.
Yeah, that was actually a really good play from Spitz there, Dyer. You know what just happened is that Zeno was following Dan, trying to get that 100% stock for the exposed, and Spitz came up on him and revealed him out of the stealth so that he couldn't mark Dan. That is the altruistic play that we need right here to protect Dan from being tunneled out, as Spitz able to provide the reveal there onto the Ghost Face, because you know Zeno is an incredible killer player. He's going to be able to break line of sight and not be revealed by one survivor that he's chasing. That's why you need to send an experienced survivor like Spitz in there, have him do the revealing in your chase. And Dan now, he's 99. He's going to get marked on an unsafe window, Dyer. Where will Dan go from here? And that's actually going to be Nightlight taking a hit there. Very good play there from Nightlight. But now Dan, marked for 60 seconds, running down the Larry's Memorial Institute. What do you have here for us, Dan? This is honestly the most important chase of your career right now in the grand finals, as Dan drops that God pallet. He's making it over towards another safe one here. Probably going to drop this one as well. And Zeno, he really wants this tunnel out, Dyer. And like I said before, this is where it can start to go wrong for the Ghost Face, as Zeno is forced to leave. Dan still marked. He's gotta imagine that the Ghost Face is still on him. And yeah, chase starting again. Dan, he should make this unsafe pallet there. And that's gonna be a head-on coming in. An amazing play there from Kexo. Probably our most altruistic survivor that we have in DBDLeague. Kexo, allowing Dan to wait out that entire mark duration. And Invictus here just showing us that they are not out of this game yet.
It is an incredible story of comeback. I will give them that, because just a few minutes ago, you and I talked about the danger that we have a survivor removed from the stage at 5 generators remaining. And now we are still talking about all 4 survivors being fine and running on 2 generators remaining. So that's a huge progress from where we originally stood. And here, Spitz, come on, buddy! Make Germany proud! 12 events, a few balls! No, this is not what I was looking for. Spitz has unfortunately disappointed at this pallet. Invictus needed a hero here, but it was still a good chase and still wasting a lot of time. That's unfortunately, though, going to be a pain rest, so a little bit of a setback there onto the generators. Nightlight just starting one in the distance now. And we are already on Dan the Man again. This is the survivor who would be eliminated. Seems like Zeno doesn't follow just yet. Nightlight lurking around, Dan crossing by. And yeah, survivors of Invictus rotating a little bit, communicating who's taking the next generator. Where is Zeno? Now the awareness again. I believe that was Kexo there on the corner. And that's our 75 to 80% stalked survivor. So he needs to be really careful, but luckily breaking Zeno out of the power here.
Yeah, that's a huge reveal there from Kexo. He is going to be almost 99 there, as they're actually not going to go for the unhook on Spitz here, the fresh hook. That is Zeno's 3rd hook stage. Now, Kexo, he really wants to get rid of this stock if he can, but I don't know if Zeno is going to allow him to do that, as we've got 2 survivors again with high stock progress. Nightlight injured, and it seems like Spitz is going to be going 2nd stage unless somebody was able to sneak in. Looks like we've actually got, yeah, there is a 3-gen over here on the bottom side. It's not extremely tight. There is that one up in the middle room, but it is still a 3-gen here, Dyer. We're already seeing the entity spikes growing on the gens, as while there are 2 gens left, it's obvious that Zeno is protecting those bottom side generators.
And it's really tricky now, right? With Kexo on the 99 there, Dan on the 17. Nightlight is really the one who can get something done here, but unfortunately, that's going to be again the chance to eliminate Dan. I cannot believe that we said it already 10 times now, and Dan is still running around in the
And the reveal from Kexo, no way. That's huge that he's able to get that reveal.
Yeah, that is exactly the team play we needed.
I mean, not only does that prevent Dan from getting marked, that vault on that window into the reveal from Kexo. Kexo is also 99, so Nightlight going to take another hit once again. He just continues to take these body block hits for his teammates, as Nightlight has not really been the target of Stalk so far. That's going to be Nightlight and Spitz running up the map away from the gens here. Spitz with a hook stage already on him, so Nightlight will be looking to go down for his teammate here on the pallet. That is going to be the down. Eruption hitting multiple generators here as Spitz now in chase once again. Got a God pallet here. Nightlight going to get picked up on this pallet. Is there anybody here? It doesn't look like it, so that is going to be one more fresh hook for Xeno.
Yeah, Dan is the new tutorial of how to stay alive with 2 hook stages so far, together with the team members there. Nightlight taking another fresh hook here. That's going to be another pain risk coming out, and a little bit of a regression onto the generators here. But it's incredible when we look at the journey that Invictus has basically taken throughout the trial here. It is really the story of making sure that you do not lose a team member. It's the story of staying as 4 people committed to pressure to the generators here, and also as often as we point out that they are in danger now with a 99% stalk here, with an 80% stalk over here, it doesn't really seem to affect them. They are handling it super beautiful. They pull the killer towards the corner of the map. They do take hits for one another. They help with breaking the killer out of power. Absolutely incredible here. The next one is a Nightlight in an injured chase. So that's just going to be the M1 potential, and that isn't a tough task for Xeno here. So we just see the second stage coming out onto our survivor next to a generator that is under quite some pressure here, 50 to 60%. Dan working on the other one in the distance now has to leave the area and rotate. Spitz might be able to finish this one in case Xeno is staying a little bit longer in this area over here to defend this generator and locate the potential rescuer.
That is not a good down at all for Nightlight. It is right in the middle of the 3-gen, as that's going to be Spitz finishing the gen off in the corner. And Kexo found and marked here. We knew that was going to happen eventually, Dyer. Kexo has been 99'd for so long, and he finally gets marked. As that's going to be Dan going for a trade here. Actually, he's waiting for the power to come back. The fact that Xeno didn't go for the M1 there should tell them everything, and that's going to be the down onto Dan as well. Finally, these marks are coming in for Xeno. He's been holding onto that stock for so long, and that's going to result in a straight-up kill onto Dan. As Kexo getting found there, forced the Death Hook survivor to come in for the rescue, and that is going to be a huge swing in the favor of Xeno.
Yeah, finally, right? Finally and eventually Dan is eliminated after 57 hours and 26 minutes. At least that's how it felt like, since Dan was originally with the danger of getting removed from this trial here. Back and forth now between Xeno and Spitz, back and forth. So far the window is so... that's a little bit too optimistic. Mr. Xeno Spitz is ready. Unfortunately, it is going to be with the second run an end to this chase, but Kexo and Nightlight teaming up in the distance, and this kind of also feels like the potential final chance here to get this generator out of the way. They are committing to it. They realize that as well, and they do get rewarded. Now we need some outs in the upcoming trial, and Prion, that just changed the dynamic for the upcoming trial a lot, because a Ghost Face with all the chaos, very often with a lot of injuries applying left and right, he is definitely capable of going for a speed run during the end game and keeping all the survivors together. So the fact that we now need an out is actually huge.
Yeah, and Dyer, in the grand finals, I have to call it like I see it. Picking up Spitz there was a huge mistake for Xeno. Allowing those 2 survivors to double the last gen. I think he should have known how much progress was on that, and that Nightlight and Kexo would have been doubling it as soon as Spitz went down. So honestly, Invictus should not have got that last generator, and they should definitely feel happy about that, as it'll lessen the burden on their killer player here going into the other side.
Yeah, let's take a quick turn and throw it on the analyst desk early, because we're always thankful when we gain a little bit of extra time. So guys, your turn to discuss what we have just seen and what's happening here with the pressure.
Part of the reason that I do love the Ghost Face sets for sure. It's a real big tug of war back and forth between the survivors and the killers, and it's generally a trial that goes a little bit longer, so it really lets you kind of see that tug of war back and forth. It felt like for a while the survivors doing a really good job of being able to keep that first elimination from coming across, but once it did, I mean, Ratz, it just felt like the wheels fell off.
Oh yeah, it did. Like, I thought this before the trial. Ghostface is a really good killer at punishing mistakes. And that's what we have seen. Like, the first 2 downs on Dan, although it didn't seem like it was that terrible because they kept Dan alive, it forced their cards, right? They had to make the moves that they did because of it. The 2 stages, it's not just, okay, we now donated him 2 stages extra that we would have him give.
With Pedro, you are welcome for the behind-the-scenes safari that you just received here. Up we go again with a sloppy. I feel like that is pretty much the Omega meta on the Ghost Face. You really want to make sure that the survivors either lose a little bit of time when going for the resets, or maybe sometimes even taking a risky decision saying, let's just stay injured for now, we need to get the generator done, and you can just peekaboo around the corner and get them downed here. Prion, what's your prediction for... I'm not sure if you want to chase Marco in the first chase again. That turned out to be dangerous in the previous one, but a 99% stalk. Prion, my question was, how do you predict this trial, since we need an out, but this might turn into a little bit of a disaster here?
Well, Dire, Pedro does need a 4K1 here, and he's content to just let Marco walk away with that 90% stock. And 4K1 is the most common result that we see for the Ghost Face. But I just want to say, it's probably smart not to commit to Marco there, just given how obvious he was being about running down the map there. Going to be Eruption placed onto that first generator for Pedro. He's okay to take this slow. This is one of those sets that you can afford to play really slow on Killer, as long as you're getting your stocks up and making sure that you're zoning survivors away from the gens, playing to your stealth. And now Pedro here, he's trying to get the drop on Zeno. Zeno holding the corner here. He's actually going to path through that room down towards the main area. So really good awareness from Zeno there as to where that stealth killer is. Pedro now, I mean, he's got a couple of survivors on high stock, but no injuries just yet. Corrupt Intervention is about to run out, and Pedro, I mean, he's in a good spot as long as he can convert, Dire, but if he doesn't convert on any of these stocks, this is going to be a really rough start.
Yeah, the next few minutes here will decide how to judge this early game. The potential is definitely there, since we have the stalk progress a little bit more onto laser here. And we see a little bit of a different strategy as well, right? Our previous Ghost Face was also taking the M1s when possible, just getting some injuries across the board. That really combines well with the sloppy to gain some extra time. Zeno, for example, just seeing Nightlight, immediately the M1 for the injury there, and Pedro is playing this a little bit calmer. I would say it's really quiet on the Larry's Memorial Institute at the moment. He's playing a little bit like the can I get all 4 survivors perfectly on 99 challenge, and if he then strikes successfully, then we actually can refer back to the term problems team. But in case Elysium is somehow able to counterplay that, we might be up for a very difficult ride.
Nice reveal there out from Zeno. He was so close to getting marked there. Getting those reveals is so important there when your stock is close to 100. As you're right, Dire, Pedro does have almost all of these survivors marked. He's not choosing to pop any of them just yet. That will be the critical moment when he chooses to actually activate that exposed on one of these survivors. He's just continuing to stalk these gens here, waiting for the perfect moment, maybe trying to decide if there's a 3-gen that he wants to protect here. I mean, from 5 gens, protecting the 3-gen is going to be a valid strategy for him here, as the win condition is 4K1. Every time Pedro moves between these gens here, it is a test of communication for Elysium. Will they be able to call him out in time, know his position, and pre-run away from it, especially when they're all marked here? Dire, this is really on a razor's edge for Elysium survivors.
Yeah, and the question is, I hope they realize in what situation they are in, right? Because you should definitely notice that he stalked a lot of them, and the severity now starts to spread here. First down coming out. I really like also how calm Pedro is playing with the game plan that he obviously has, right? He came into this trial, he's under a lot of pressure, not only because the first set point went to Elysium, also because the killer game in the previous set didn't work out, and now you have to take the responsibility again. But he's kind of playing this really calm and collected, getting the pressure together, taking the time for these stalks, and it will be really difficult to now save Xeno in case Pedro is able to catch any of these rotating survivors that want to get Xeno and then quickly stalk him down. Then we are looking forward to a catastrophe. So it will be interesting if they even go for it, or if they might say we are aware of the danger, we just let Xeno go second stage and prioritize the gens for now.
Yeah, and this is the situation Pedro wants, as he's going to find another mark there onto Marco, and that's going to be another down in the area that Pedro wants it. He has a 3, maybe even 4 gen here, and all survivors marked. That is going to be the unhook onto Xeno, and Pedro is clearly playing this top side of the map now. Pallet drop coming out from Pedro HZ, but it doesn't look like that's what Pedro wants. He might still be on Xeno here, going for the tunnel out, maybe trying to get that pickup there onto Marco. As yeah, I mean, these survivors are not going to mess up on a pallet that strong, as Marco gets the vault, and that's going to be all survivors picked up now in this gen area. Now Pedro, it's dangerous if he chooses to commit to this chase on Xeno, even though it is in the area that he wants. Misses the swing there, but I mean, you don't have any reason not to do that. But another mark is going to come out here. Laser marked, and he's going to use that to get the down onto Xeno. Just amazing play there from Pedro. Using the mark on the body blocker to go for the swing on the other survivor, and that's going to be another down. Pedro, all the puzzle pieces are coming together for him. This is why Pedro has been playing slow, the mastermind on the Ghost Face. Not talking about that mastermind, you know what I mean. But that's going to be multiple downs and injuries here for Pedro, and it is all coming together for him.
Oh, that's the summary of the situation. A little bit of a locker juke for the style points. Okay, he doesn't want to waste the time there. Okay, it looked like he lost track for a second, but that wouldn't happen here. So yeah, Marco and Pedro basically pressuring the potential unhook here, which also shows us no one is taking care of the generators at the moment. The survivors are very busy trying to clean up the mess, and somehow it does end in the hooked survivor. Pedro with an unfortunate move here. Now 2 of the survivors on the run, but Pedro obviously smelling the chance. He is in a dominant position, so we need a huge comeback. But this here, that this worked out, kind of lays the base for a comeback, right?
Yeah, this does allow Elysium back into the game a little bit, Dire, but it is still a really bad situation for them. This is going to be another pain resonance in the 3 gen, and you might be wondering, why did Pedro not commit to the tunnel out on Xeno there after camping for so long? It's because of what I talked about in the last game. If you let the survivors force the Ghost Face into a long M1 chase on this map that has many god pallets, Ghost Face isn't stealth and is just going for a normal chase, that is how Ghost Face loses this game. So Xeno made it down the map towards the library, towards the god pallet on the side of those long rooms, and that's going to cause Pedro to not want to commit. He's playing for his gens because he knows his win condition is 4K1. This is incredibly smart from Pedro. He really wanted to end that game on that unhook onto Xeno, but unfortunately just a little bit of a unforced error there. Maybe nerves coming out from Pedro. It's okay though, because he's still in a really good spot.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if any of these players is really calm. because we are playing in the grand final after all, in the showdown for $7.5K here today. So there's a lot on the line, a lot of people are watching, and you really have to prove yourself. Laser has to prove us a clean unhook. That's at least for Marco the case, but it does end up in a trade, yet we gain a little bit of time here, so we can live with that. Xeno with a 75% generator in the distance. Well, now it's going to be just 50 because of the pain rest, but we are also back on the generator pressure now. We are no longer trying to counterplay what Pedro is throwing at us in terms of pressure, so we definitely get some control back over the trial, right? The question is it potentially a little bit too late? Because Pedro was for a pretty long part of this trial able to really keep them under pressure. Xeno has to interrupt the unhook because that would result in another trade here. So either Marco or Pedro are now rotating quickly to get Laser off the hook, or it just worked as a bait because you really want to go for the chase here. Fantastic window available, especially with the pallet being dropped right next to it. Laser getting rescued in the distance. Elysium back on coordinated gameplay. That all looks like following a plan, and that gives us a lot of hope on the fan side of Elysium. Another generator is good to go as well here, so we might want to consider a reset now across the 3 survivors that are injured to avoid a jump scare, but we are a little bit back on track here.
Yeah, Dyer, I am not entirely sure why the death hook survivor was the one going for the unhook there, but it worked out regardless, as Pedro not able to get the down onto Xeno there, not because he didn't want to though. I'm gonna keep talking about this, just the discipline from Pedro to not chase on that bottom side of the map. He knows the survivors have to come to him to get this win con. So Pedro, he's just gonna leave Xeno once again, give up that potential death, and now it looks like he knows that there's not too much progress in his 3-gen, so he's trying to find the reset as he's stalking down the map here. Couple of survivors stationed out to try to spot where he is. Now he's going to go over to this god pallet, into the basement maybe. Very interesting play here. I don't think there's anybody here, Dyer.
Yeah, Pedro with the game sense that isn't really sensing, at least not correctly. Unfortunately, a little bit of a time loss, and time loss means there's enough time on the survivor side to just basically freely get the needed resets out of the way, making sure that there are no more injuries and therefore no more jump scares possible, except the survivors that we have close to the full stalk, aka Pedro here. So it would be the Pedro versus Pedro standoff, according to the Ghost Face mechanics at least, and Pedro needs quite a long time now to find the next survivor. Now we are catching Xeno over here in the corner, but this was definitely some downtime with the disadvantage for the killer side. Survivors able to get back towards the generators, ready to get some progress in, or maybe not, because they are both together vibing over here next to the exit gate. But we're progressing again towards Pedro's beginning strategy, where we have a lot of survivors close to the full stalk. Laser and Pedro need to be careful now, so we might be ready to go for some more jump scares in a second.
Yeah, I really like the way Pedro is playing this, Dyer. He's really playing around that add-on that he has there, the drop leg knife sheath that gives a whopping 10% haste on getting a mark, as Pedro HZ now in chase the survivor that is 99th. That is going to be the firecracker blind coming in, buying him a little bit more time. But Pedro, he's content to continue playing this slowly, which is, I think, probably his best option here, given the win condition.
80%, 75% on Marco's generator, and Pedro has another one good to go. It does look strong, and we have seen a head-on over here, so Elysium also making sure that some extra time is getting wasted. Laser with the full exposure and no pallets and windows available close by, so that's going to be a down right here. But overall, besides Pedro being stalked entirely, it does look
that
strong.
Was part of the
Elysium.
3-gen.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, remember, now the bully squad is coming out. Instead of L Marco, we see W Marco right here because they now also rescue immediately in the back, and that is the final generator. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, we need one stage out of the door here. It doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter where they leave, it doesn't matter how they leave. One person out of the door, and Elysium kicks this off with a 2-0. That's an incredible start into the grand final here. Prion, it's the opposite of what we expected, but Elysium is incredible right now. It's unbelievable.
Just incredibly clean survivor play from Elysium here, Dire. I honestly think Pedro is going to be kicking himself over that unhook in the 3-gen. I think he really had a chance to straight up end the game at that moment, but hitting the hooked survivor resulted in Elysium staying in the match and carries them to the win here off of their own coordinated teamwork. I mean, if you had to ask me which of these 9 sets are most Elysium favored, this is probably the one I would have set. This Ghost Face set. I'm not surprised at all to see Elysium winning it. I don't think Invictus will be surprised to see this either. I think they know that they have a lot more better sets coming up soon, but we are going to be throwing it over to the analysts here. They will have a lot more to say about how this played out and those future sets. So Q, take it away.
Yeah, it's interesting. It felt like, despite the delayed down, it did feel like Pedro at one point with 2 players on the floor was fighting back. But then all of a sudden in the mid game, things went kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure how.
It was a good early game for Nightlight, so you really don't want to say, let's DC now, and then you're sorry because Silla is actually there. You rather want to make sure that it's going to be a fair call, and that's definitely the case. And I'm glad to see that Nightlight continues his good early game with an injury onto Marco almost immediately. So it seems like Nightlight is ready to go either way, and just looking forward to a lot of pressure on the survivors here.
Yeah, Nightlight here, he's already got that first injury onto Marco, and it is going to be the enraged mode starting to wear off already. He wants to get multiple injuries here, going to land a grab onto Pedro HZ there, but the bite does not connect due to the terrain in between. So Pedro HZ going to get hit with that Kagune mark, but making it over towards something else. Flashlight or Firecracker going to come out there, but Pedro still eats the bite as he runs over to this bus pallet here. He's got one of the stronger bus tiles, not the split one, but this is going to be difficult to play against the Ghoul. Nightlight here, he's going for an M1, but that's actually going to be a body block coming in from Xeno, and he's going to throw the pallet as well. First leap vault coming in there onto Xeno. That is not going to result in a hit. Got to be the second leap there if he really wants to get the hit onto Xeno. And these Elysium survivors are doing a pretty good job of delaying the first down, Dire.
Yeah, they are doing indeed a really good job here. We didn't follow Marco at the beginning, understandable though, because we kind of wanted to chase in the active generator area, but they are doing really strong here. This is the power when you actually have 4 survivors, right? And not loading into the trial as 3. You do have another body to throw into the chase. You do have a little bit of extra pressure onto the generators. Beautiful though, onto Sille here. Really strong now. We have everyone injured, so there's definitely potential.
Yeah, potential for things to go well for Nightlight here. Maybe going for a play on this tile, maybe a vault as he channels the Kagune, but he's not going to go for the commit just yet. Actually, yeah, choosing to go for a vault there onto Silhe, but this pallet loop is too short. I don't think Silhe is going down here, Dire. And that's going to be a fast heal onto Xeno as he comes in for another body block. Altruistic play coming in from Elysium is exactly what you need here. And that's going to be potentially... No, he's actually just going to cancel the power and go for the break there. I really thought that was going to be a kidnap coming in from Nightlight there, as Xeno is not marked. Still trying to play this shack. He's going to get the cutoff there on the shack window, and that is going to be the first down for Nightlight. But Dire, that was a lot longer than we were just talking about on the analyst desk.
And we actually go for the pain rest here for a second. And that's going to be a little bit of a setback. Was just watching the reactions of the restart reason as they appear at the moment. Guys, again, we were 3 survivors in the trial. A few of you really root for Invictus there, and I can understand your feelings, but I do think playing against 3 survivors from the start is a little bit unfair. We can all agree on that. Xeno now in the chase here, and he does make it a successful outcome. Actually, it does take a little bit of time to get the down in here. He makes it back towards the shack. It is risky because we have our survivor right next to it. First generator getting popped here as well, but he does make it, and that also means we have access to the unhook now with the blind as well. What a play. Another survivor coming out. Prion, it does look a little bit like chaos, but it seems kind of sorted and planned from Elysium.
Yeah, the gen is going to be done here in a second for Elysium, but this is 3 injured survivors all chasing in the same area. You got to imagine they don't have much gen progress other than that one that was just completed. Bloodlust going to be coming in for Nightlight. He is laser focused on this tunnel out onto Silhay here, as he is marked. No kidnap can come out. Silhay wins that M1 mind game, and he's trying to make it over towards this next tile. Xeno goes down through the pallet there, and that's going to be more pressure for Nightlight here. I can already tell you what he's going to do. Looking to keep slugging until he can get this tunnel out. Goes for that first leap vault. That's not going to be what you need here on the Ghoul to get that slowdown onto the survivor and get the down, as these first leap vaults are just not going to cut it for cutting off Silhay on these fillers.
Yes, strong showing by Pedro here. We now do take the hook onto Xeno, but Elysium really showing off here so far. Getting onto the generators again. 2 of the generators just starting the progress, so we still have some time to catch up. We have time to interrupt them, time to make sure that it's going to be a little bit more pressure, especially onto Marco, who is still healthy here. But at some point we also need to commit, right? It is not just enough to fly around as the Ghoul, to spread some injuries here and there and make sure that you basically keep a nice pressure. You need to transfer that into the pressure. In the distance, we do see the For the People play in order to keep Xeno protected as the healthy survivor. So really good work here from Elysium. Everything seems coordinated, and the chases are actually impressive.
Yeah, really impressive chases from Elysium so far, Dire, and I'm wondering myself why Nightlight isn't going for more of the kidnap hits there onto these unmarked survivors, as it's going to be Silhay going down in the corner. I mean, you can chase well as against this killer as much as you want, but if you get caught in a dead zone like that, you just die against this killer. It's going to be Xeno running in front of the hook there, trying to get some attention away from Silhay, as he might have the decisive strike or something of that nature here. There's 3 gens to go. We've got Xeno mending in the corner. 2 generators very close to being completed here for Elysium. If that shack gen doesn't get interrupted, it is not going to be good for Nightlight, as looks like he is choosing to pressure Xeno in the corner here. Xeno drops the pallet. He's going to be going for a vault. Not sure what happened there. Again, that was another first leap vault. You don't get the same distance with the first leap vault as you do with the other ones. So Xeno easily able to make something else, as Nightlight slides across the map and is able to apply another mark to Marco, trying to protect this unhook as best as he can, but we are about to be at 1 gen here, Dire, with the one that Pedro HC is working.
Chance to take over, ladies and gentlemen. Xeno on the floor, Silhay injured. We do get the down now with a nice mind game, hopefully. And then we can switch over towards the other survivors. But unfortunately, Xeno is already rescued in the distance, so the double slug is not coming through, and these mind games are just insane that we see at the moment here. Xeno with the Maple of Man as well, just picked up on the floor, now already with an insane team play, and the blind coming out as well. Elysium is just shining here, ladies and gentlemen. They are so ready for this grand final. Beautiful to see that. And even though Ghoul is one of the strongest killers in this game, it is incredible what these survivors are doing to him at the moment. Insane.
Yeah, Xeno is gonna go down there again, but like Dire, we're at 1 gen. 4 survivors are standing. I don't think we've seen a single Pop Goes the Weasel used this trial. That's gonna be a pain resonance there, but Nightlight just hasn't had an opportunity to use these gen regression perks. The chases from Elysium have been so long, and I mean, we're getting down to the wire here. Like, yes, the Ghoul is a killer who can kind of pop off at any moment, but we're running out of time.
Yeah, we are indeed running out of time, and yeah, also all these injuries, at least not as dangerous anymore, right? Survivors back into spreading across the entire map, so it results in a time loss. If you really want to strike on one of these survivors, you have some heals coming out, for example, on Silhey, who can now take a little bit of a protection for a team member. So we get another stage onto Petrol here, but it is not at all the pressure that you would like to have, and the 2-minute survivor is also not really who you want to have at the hook right now. You want to look forward to a potential elimination. You want to look forward to applying something back on the survivor team, and basically the only thing that is possible right now is that the Elysium survivors are celebrating, because the game plan works out. You have a lot of hang time here, and we need some downs really fast.
And that's going to be Silhey getting behind the killer there and able to get the vault. And again, that happens because he's going for the first leap vault. You don't get that if you go for the second one when you're enraged there. Silhey just has enough time to get behind Nightlight and take the vault. And that is going to be the final gen completed here. Only 4 stages for Nightlight. And this is serious trouble for Invictus. Dire. I mean, he can surely get a down on somebody here, as that's going to be another vault coming through. Xeno, the survivor, already with a hook stage here, going to be going down for his teammates, but taking hits against this killer in the end game is not really a safe thing to do because he's just so fast. Slow vault coming in from Marco, very smart, honestly, preventing the kidnap there. These survivors know the counterplay. Still going to be the down though. I think if you are Elysium, you just take the outs here. You give him these 2 kills because even that is already an insane survivor result. Potentially going for the save here onto Marco. You're allowing this killer that moves across the map so quickly to have more time. I don't agree with that. As Silhey going to take the bite and run over towards the exit gate. Even if Marco the fresh hook dies, your killer is going to be sitting in a very nice spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we still have... I'm really glad, right, that we get a little bit of a comeback here in this end game, that we now also catch on to Marco, who is the fresh hook, because that is really what you're looking forward to. If it stays like this, we would talk about 9 stages. The average on the Ghoul throughout the season is 11, so it is still an amazing result. And the only thing I'm worried about what it does with the mental of Invictus, right? Because it is unfortunate that the restart was needed, even though it was obviously needed, because we cannot play a game with just 3 survivors. But you're down with 2 set points, and then unfortunately you do experience the restart after a good early game. And even though you could argue, of course, an early game is easier with just 3 opponents, it still does something with you. And it does something with you when you are already in the disadvantage. It is what you sign up for when you play competitive DBD, and part of the challenge is definitely of such a strategy, especially when it clearly didn't happen when the early game went wrong. So let's all try to keep it fair and square, and also show some sportsmanship towards the teams here, because when it's confirmed that way, they clearly didn't do it to get an advantage. About the penalty, that is a question. There is no penalty when there is a game bug, because a penalty is meant to be applied onto players and teams that don't follow the rules, and to ensure a fair competition. Now, if a game bug is causing an issue, you cannot penalize a team for that, and I think we can agree that it would be the same way the other way around. You don't feel like it's nice if you get a penalty for Invictus or Nightlight because DBD just didn't work that day. And the third one, yes, it would have been allowed to change the builds if they didn't change from the previous trial. The players decided to not go for it. It was not restricted by us. I hope this now clears the misconceptions that are still out there. I know it is unfortunate when in a grand final something like this happens. Do we want to restart? No, we don't. But it's also not a worthy grand final if we play one trial from the beginning with 3 survivors, because then it's not a comparable performance and a comparable fight at all. So with that, we now close the chapter of this restart. You guys are free to hop into our Discord server and discuss it later on with us. We happily answer all the questions that you have remaining, and now we are going to see if Zeno can match up with the win condition that he has received, and that is at least getting 10 stages on 4 survivors.
And look at this, these chases coming out from Invictus survivors so far. They're doing a really good job here to okay, Spit's gonna go down, but that took a very long time, Dire. I think Pedro, Dan, Kexo doing a really good job of delaying that first down here from Zeno. That is finally going to be the first down, along with a pain resonance, but there's no corrupt intervention here from Zeno. So you got to imagine that Invictus was able to get significant gen progress in exchange for that down, even though it eventually did come out. So Zeno now looking to spread pressure. He's going over to the shack, trying to find a target. Not going to find what he's looking for, though, as the main thing here is going to be who comes for the save, and is that tunnel out going to be in play here, as Zeno snaps around the side of that double window there, and a very nicely timed unhook from, I'm assuming that was Kexo, our most altruistic survivor for Invictus here. Stealth near the hook, is able to get Spitz off of that hook without any extra injuries coming in. That's going to be the enraged mode burned out for Zeno. Now trying to find that tunnel out here. Not able to do it just yet, Dire. I think he sees somebody in the distance, but is that the survivor he's looking for here? Not quite sure, as no, that's going to be Dan, the healthy survivor here with 0 hook stages on him. First generator has been completed, and I would be worrying if I were Zeno right now. These downs need to come in a little bit faster, especially when you didn't have corrupt intervention.
It is going to be a little bit tricky here, but so far Invictus still making sure that they do waste as much time as possible. Pedro here catching the window in time. Will he stay successful in the chase? Definitely getting over towards that window here. Zeno following right after, but we are on the run here. That's going to be the drop off the pallet now, and we will here the second generator in the distance, however. So Invictus showing us a good performance. Dan being around here for the potential rescue, not even getting injured as we weren't ready for that. So good play by Invictus. That is exactly how you respond to the previous trial. Off we go. I'm gonna get my Invictus jersey out of my locker, because what I see so far is absolutely amazing.
You don't like to get kidnapped by Kaneki on the live servers? Look at what Pedro did right there, hugging the window. Incredible play from our #1 ladder player here. These chases just drag on and on. Ghoul has no counters. Ghoul is overpowered. Not sure what you guys are talking about. These survivors of Invictus are lights out right now in the chase. Vault going to be coming in onto Spitz, but Kexo is here for a hit, and still another filler pallet is there for Spitz. He's going to be moving back towards this double window now. Needs a hit from his teammate. Kexo coming into play here, takes the injury. That's going to last Spitz even longer here in the chase, but Kexo, he's just going to get switched onto here, but that's fine for Invictus. Spitz is the one with a hook stage. Kexo is still fresh, as he is going to be down in a dead zone here. Enraged mode going to be out here, but that bite just doesn't connect because of the tile between it. Spitz making that double window here. Just there's so many double windows here on this map, and these Invictus survivors are playing them so perfectly. I don't think he makes this window though, but he actually goes for the vault instead, and that's going to allow another body block to come in. Dire, look at this play out of Dan. Not able to get around that body block is Zeno, and Spitz going to continue to live even longer. Finally going to go down here on the broken truck. Not a very strong area to be in, but look at that gen progress from Invictus, Dire. These guys are trying to claw their way back into the score of this grand finals.
Yeah, crazy work. Pedro will finish a generator as well. So that is 4 gens completed. Ladies and gentlemen, what a play. Let's hope that Invictus can pull it up. And I will be very honest, after this unfortunate restart and after also being penalized by the window there that the players were aware of, but still happening, it is crazy how they are keeping up the momentum here and how they make sure that they are in the dominant position. Yes, they are all 4 injured, but when you are, and this is now going to be a joke for all the Germans here, when you are so spitze in your game, then you will absolutely grind here. Kexo is going down onto the floor. That's just happy pick up from Zeno here to get any progress at least across the hook stages, because Invictus really doesn't allow you to go for any at the moment. But it's exactly the same strategy that we've seen in the previous trial. 2 minutes of hang time, making sure you get a little bit of pressure back. But yeah, really, really strong here.
That's only the 3rd hook stage here for Zeno, as now Pedro stuck in the edge map here. He's going to be going to the corner, but time is on Invictus's side here. As long as they can finish this last generator, it's going to be Spitz getting the unhook there onto his teammate, and Kexo going to be completing the heal on him first. Pedro with the tenacity on the ground, making up some time for his team to be picked up later, as Dan now doubles back there. I don't think it's going to make him any distance, though. He would have died on that window anyways. That's going to be 2 survivors on the ground here for Invictus. This is where things might get bad, as you see that healthy survivor there. That is Spitz, somehow not getting found, makes it over to the shack. That is crucial for Invictus. If Spitz gets hit with the bite there and Zeno goes into enraged mode, that would be so much pressure and a potential for more survivors on the floor here. Pedro, that survivor with tenacity, crawled all the way over to the shack and was picked up easily. So still in the game here is Zeno, but he's hanging on by a thread. He needs to find an unhooker, interrupt a reset, or maybe get a pop goes the weasel onto a big gen here. Invictus, I mean, Dyer, this is really on the razor's edge here. It could go either way.
Yeah, it really is close. They do get Dan now off the hook. We need to keep in mind, though, we need to be careful with the hook stages. We have 4 at the moment, so we still have 5 more to hand out. But if he would find Pedro, for example, in the end game, that would be 3 extra stages, and then we are already at 7. So we need to make sure that we pull a clean game from here, that we have a longer chase now, and that we really go into a speed run on that final generator. The generator setup is perfect. We have a wide spread, we have a difficult generator setup to defend, to say it in the words of our analyst. Unfortunately, the goal is not flightless, so he can quickly zoom over the map and make sure that he can control the generators very easily. But we need Dan the man, ladies and gentlemen, to really put Invictus into his backpack right now. And again, Kexo, Prion, you called him one of the most team players, even the most aggressive team players in DBDL. Can agree with that here. That was exactly what we needed to delay the down a little bit, and we can just hope that Invictus gets it done.
And look at the way these Invictus survivors deny that kidnap from Kaneki, hugging that window when they're not marked, and that's wasting so much of Zeno's time as he tries to get that little unintended interaction with the power on the windows and pallets, forcing the bite there into the cooldown, and that's going to allow Dan to go all the way to the corner. Spitz and Pedro, what are you guys doing here as the gen is done and Dan is up with adrenaline, and that's going to waste even more time away from Zeno. Pedro, the fresh hook survivor, is going to be so important here. Kexo still on the ground. This is going to be a second hook onto Dan Dyer, but so much more needs to happen for Zeno here.
And on the second, and they do get up Kexo. Come on, guys. I'm actually in this trial. Casters should be not biased, but in this trial right here, I'm going to root for Invictus due to the context, due to the unfortunate situation, also supporting their comeback that they have shown here. I really feel like they deserve taking the set point here. They have played brilliant, so that's going to be the chase onto Dwight. Hopping in the locker is an absolute fantastic decision there. Buys some time. You can get Kexo in the distance, but Prion, this is so intense here in the end game.
And Pedro is not on a door either. I would have thought that he would have wanted to be on that door while the chase was going on at this 4 lane. These doors are actually relatively close together as the kill comes in onto Spitz. Kexo able to make it away from the 4 lane there as Dan is trying to grab attention over by that middle pallet. But look at this, Zeno. He's just looking back and forth between these doors because he wants to find Pedro. What do you even do here if you're Invictus? If Pedro gets found, that is almost just game over.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a look at the facts. We have 3 stages more, but at the moment we have 6 on 3 survivors, so there's still a win possible. If, for example, now Kexo dies together with Dan, then we would have 9 on 3 for Zeno, but Nightlight got 9 stages on all 4, so that would then be...
Here's what Invictus is doing.
Oh.
They've sent the survivors with hook stages to do each door and rotated Pedro to the hatch. I'm almost 100% sure.
And this might work out here, and that is enough. They are already out of the door. It will be 8 stages on 3 survivors. And ladies and gentlemen, I rarely interact with the chat because we are on 10 minutes in the future here. But sometimes the energy that you invest on hating on the opponent, if you support Invictus today, sometimes this energy is better spent in supporting your own team and not saying like, oh, Elysium, they deceive on purpose. Let's put it all into Invictus because they can do it. They proved it right here, and they absolutely deserve this set point here. I'm so glad they pulled that. I'm not only so glad they pulled that because of the unfortunate restart, I'm so glad they pulled that because of the context and fighting. So yeah, absolutely great here. And now we can sail this best of 9 ship peacefully into the end, and we don't have to start any Twitter wars later. Good news. Analysts
are now 2-1 in favor of Elysium. Gonna have Zeno on the Nightmare now. This was his pick. So a killer that Zeno is extremely confident on, and we already see him decorating the trial with those dream pallets. Whether or not they'll come into play, though, remains to be seen, as that's going to be a balanced landing coming out from Kexo in the first chase here. He's almost about to have fallen asleep. He runs down the map towards this rock filler pallet. These filler pallets are going to be super important for Invictus here, as that filler drop is not going to result in a hit for Zeno. Kexo continuing to live here. I think he makes this one as well. Perfect ping there from Kexo, as he's going to drop that pallet gem as well, delaying that first hit. Teleport coming out from Zeno, and he's immediately going to leave chase, get onto these survivors that were working one of the most important gens on the map.
And Invictus looks stronger than at the beginning here. It does really feel like they woke up, ladies and gentlemen. Zeno even opts to switch the game over to Minecraft, plus 10 stone here at the window, but Nancy not impressed from that. A little bit of pointing there. That's going to be the pallet thrown eventually, but we do go for another chase towards the bottom side. In the meanwhile, we try to regress the gens a little bit, and 90 seconds have already expired in the trial here, and that's always tricky, right? If corrupt intervention expires naturally, not because you got it down, it always feels bad on the killer side.
Yeah, and a really good job so far by Invictus to deny that first down, as the teleport is going to come in again. Zeno does not want to give up this middle of the map gen. It's going to drop that relatively weak pallet on his head, buying some serious time there, as now over towards this corner. Zeno has an idea that somebody is here working this gen, and that is going to be Dan. Another one of those rock fillers has been dropped. Resources dwindling here for Invictus, but just perfect survivor play so far, just denying those injuries and forcing Zeno to just continue kicking these gens with Call of Brine. Look at the rate at which these Invictus survivors are waking themselves up with the clocks. Freddy is a lot different than he used to be. It used to be that you could just ignore the sleep status effect, but now not so much anymore, that he has those strong separate powers in the pallets and snares. So seems like Invictus here, they're using that bottom side of the map as a source of safety, as Dan now in chase at this TL wall, going for the check spot here. He's going to spot him out. It's the fast fault, but is going to lose the 50-50. Surrounded by Dream Pallets here, Dan has to get to the other side of the map. Going to be making it to this jungle gym here, but with the snare, I'm not sure if he makes this pallet. And that is going to be Dan down on the pallet. There is somebody nearby, potentially for a save, though, Dire, you know, suspicious.
This is Invictus doing Invictus things. Finally, we get the first hook stage in, but now we can clearly see things are working out differently for them. They are much stronger, much more confident, much more in control here. Generators are also pretty efficiently worked on, so we can definitely be happy with the early game that we have seen here on the Coal Tower. Zeno now has the difficulty. He feels that you really want to have more already, right? You would at least like to see some additional injuries being spread already, or even have Dan in the second stage if possible, but unfortunately the Invictus survivors denied that pretty strong, and you cannot even go fully onto Spitz there because you kind of want to make sure that Dan stays on the hook, but knowing Invictus and their efficiency, this will definitely be punished. So if Invictus doesn't make any mistake or handing out some extra injuries or downs, we will definitely look towards a strong trial potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Zeno did not even feel comfortable to get that free hit onto Spitz in the edge map is pretty indicative of how this trial is going so far, Dire, as Dan possibly going to be going second stage here. It's going to be Kexo coming in potentially for that unhook. Looks like he's going to leave it. Dan will be going second stage here by all accounts, as it seems like Invictus is just that confident in their gen pressure, as they are even going to unhook him quickly after the second stage came in, potentially exposing Dan to a tunnel out here. Pedro working a gen off in the distance. Kexo, he doesn't have any sort of healing perks or anything, so Dan, gonna be up to him to not get found here. And he's doing a pretty good job of that so far, as now Kexo in chase at this TL wall. Snare coming out, not going to land because Kexo had the check spots. He stays at the T side of the wall. Really good pathing coming out from him so far, as he continues to last without getting injured here at this TL.
And we do keep trying to get the quick down here, but all of these mind games, they do not work out. Kexo with the window fake as well. Yeah, hello. We keep running an insane chase down towards the bottom side of the Coal Tower again. Teleport coming up from Zeno, because you also really desperately at this point need to find a way to stop the pressure onto these generators. Spitz with a 75% generator. Nancy
knows
being
about
found
Dan
over here, but yeah, Dan was here as well, and Zeno has located him, so understandable that Pedro is now rotating in. He will make the window of the main building.
Yeah, main building window was made, and oh no, Zeno doesn't think he has time to go for that tunnel out, as Spitz now in chase. The fresh hook survivor, he's just going to be dropping that pallet there, and the fact when you're not able to even commit for that tunnel out, I think that really speaks to how much time you have left on Killer, as we're about to be at 1 gen for Invictus. Dan escapes death once again, as body blocks potentially coming in from Pedro in every chase here. Now dropping the shack pallet, getting some more distance, and that's going to be Pedro or Kexo and Spitz, doubling the last generator as these two survivors play for each other here on this filler. Pedro going to be surely taking it down for Dan here. He makes it back over to the shack now, not able to get around that body block, and that's going to buy so much more time for Dan here. He gets slowed up by the snare, but will he make it back towards the shack window? Yes, the medium vault will connect there, and Zeno forced to pick up the fresh hook survivor. This is buying so much time for Invictus here. Dire and their survivor play is just on point right now.
And we again managed to get the 2-minute survivors on the hook stage, so we gain some time here. Tricky is we are all injured, so we need to make sure that we are not overcommitting to a generator and that everything is on point. But yeah, it really looks like we are up for a good trial here from Invictus. Beautiful to see that after 2 sets that didn't work out at all, they are really stronger here. I don't know what happened, if Iconic joined the VC and held the speech of a lifetime, and now they are ready to go for it again. And but something definitely happened here after the previous set. Something is different, something feels stronger and greater and more coordinated, and it's really good to see that. And we also catch the survivor lurking up there for the potential rescue. That's going to be denied, so we can throw Spitz back onto hook, but the time is also used now to go for the reset, so pretty strong to see that.
Yeah, no pain res there for Xeno either. He chooses to do the hill instead onto Spitz. That was a fresh hook, so he did have the pain resonance available, as there is somewhat of a 3-gen. It is not a strong one. It is not the traditional Cold Tower 3-gen. That gen on the logs area is the one that Invictus is probably going to be trying to work here. As playing that eye filler now is Kexo, not falling for the snares so far. Xeno forced to kick the pallet. This is a pretty strong pallet that can spawn in the middle of these Macmillan maps. But Xeno, he seems content to watch out for who's going to be rescuing here. As Pedro spotted going for the hill. He's got to play this 4-lane now. Plays the mind games really well. And he's actually going to be able to drop the pallet. Oh, but he vaults into the killer. I think that might have been his plan though, Dire, as he triggers the line and is going to be able to trade for bits here. 2 survivors in the distance, doubling a gen. So it's okay for Pedro to go down there, especially with the tenacity.
And here we have, yeah, now this luck that also tells us a little bit that we definitely feel the pressure on the side of Elysium, that we realize that the normal the normal way of getting the hook stages together isn't strong enough against these Invictus survivors, because they do look a little bit too strong. Pedro happily taking the down here, and we keep our survivor on the run. But the final generator, ladies and gentlemen, it kind of starts getting rising the question, where is our final generator? Because all of this fantastic team play needs to lead to progress on the objectives. We have 2 generators with a noticeable amount of pressure, so Xeno basically needs to split up, clone himself to watch over 2 different locations. And if now no one is overstepping and getting unexpectedly down, they should be able to coordinate that, because they have proven that in the past that they are really strong when it comes to that. Obviously, comms on Invictus are on point, so they just need to execute that, and then with patience and commitment, the final generator will be good to go soon.
So Dan now in chase once again, but he's leaving the area of the generators here, so Xeno not wanting to commit. So that's going to be a teleport faked onto that middle gen over by the main building, as Dan now in chase once again at this jungle gym. Going for a mind game is Xeno, and he's going to win that mind game there, getting an M1 onto Dan, forcing out that pallet drop. And Dan can't go down here. He's next to the generator with the most progress and the most regression events on it. He's gonna probably make it back to this filler here that still hasn't been kicked, and that's gonna be a teleport confirmed onto that hill gen. Kexo dodges out on that snare. He's going to go down eventually though, but that's actually the Medal of Man from Pedro. Insane play there that we've seen that perk activate twice on Pedro so far in this series. Dire just buying Invictus even more time here to do these generators. Spitz is 75% on the last gen. This is so close. They're all injured. Dire. This could go any way in just seconds.
Yeah, grinding back there, and I'm not sure if Xeno realizes how quick they are on the generator, or if he also now kind of accepted his fate here and making sure that he's just getting a few extra stages together. That is going to be Kexo, who's going down onto the floor. Understandable that he picks it up immediately, because that's the survivor that still offers 3 stages. However, we will have the time to go for the resets here, and on Cold Tower you can make it happen with the end game rescue. So It will be interesting now to see if they go back in. Prion, what would you recommend? Would you take it because it's basically a good trial, right? Even with the 2 extra stages, or would you go back in?
Yeah, honestly, I think you do go for this. Freddy is an M1 killer, and you can get those stages out the door, but it looks like Pedro is just going to come in for it on his own.
No.
Zeno is nowhere nearby, and this conversation that we've just had didn't end up meaning anything, as Pedro going to be trading his life for Kexo here, maybe baiting that he has the Medal of Man again, as it's going to be Kexo going over towards this Dream Pallet, but I don't think he was asleep, Dyer. That Dream Pallet somehow missed. And Kexo not going to make it all the way to the door here. There is one survivor with a flashlight somewhere nearby. Just make sure that you don't get hit by the Dream Pallets here, as Spitz going to be forced out the door. 2 survivors healing. You can see it with the Killer Instinct there. Kexo is not dead yet, so there is still a stage that you can save here with a double save potentially. Dan and Pedro are both healthy, so this double save can come in as long as they play it correctly. They're going to take their time here. Both of them are going to wake up so they're not immediately affected by the Dream Snares, so that they don't get 2-tapped by a Dream Pallet. As Pedro now in chase at this jungle gym, it seems like Zeno knows that the double save next to the door is inevitable, and he's trying to get something else done here, but I'm not sure if it's going to work, Dyer. Here comes the 2 survivors, both healthy. They've done this hundreds, if not thousands of times. And that's going to be the hit onto Pedro. The double save is successful, and Dyer, these survivors are all leaving out the door.
They did it again, ladies and gentlemen. What an end game here. 7 stages on 4 survivors. Really good result. Analysts, take it away.
Well, Invictus doing Invictus things for sure. I mean, being able to come on out and get quite a few stages out the doors. One thing real quick, I guess, let's talk about before we talk about the map that we're on. Flightless, I wanted to ask your opinions as far as the build that we had seen there this last round from Zeno.
Yeah, normally with Freddy, you see a
Series up for Invictus with an 8 stages win condition to meet. And I mean, our analysts were just talking about it here. We usually see high amounts of stages on the Nightmare, but that's on the Dead Dog Saloon. The Coal Tower here is an entirely different story, as we saw in that last match, with Invictus's survivors performing extremely well. So first chase already starting here on to Zeno at the main building. This is going to be a strong place to take chase for the survivors, as he throws the pallet on the wrong side and then doesn't get hit. Crazy things are happening here, Dyer.
Crazy start indeed. The show Nightlight was not expecting that here for the start of the trial. But you definitely have a potential in this early game, right? Because it was really delayed in the previous one. You can make sure now that you get a quick first down here and that you really take the advantage. But Elysium is also showing us that they are aware of this potential for Nightlight. They really don't want to let it happen. They make sure that the injuries are not coming out. And we are talking soon about the same 90 seconds that we mentioned earlier, when we had no injuries just yet, and when it felt like these survivors are well prepared into the trial here. That's going to be the chance on to Marco, but unfortunately not coming through either because of the balanced landing.
These Elysium survivors are playing this very clean so far, Dyer, using their exhaustion perks, denying that first hit, and Nightlight still struggling to find an injury here as he's chasing onto Marco now over towards the edge map. This will be his first hit. That first hit is going to come in after quite a while. Corrupt Intervention is running out, and Nightlight is forced to teleport away towards his generators.
Yeah, really strong from Invictus here, from Elysium, sorry, exactly what you want to see as a response after giving one set point to your opponent now. Really calm and collected, not allowing the pressure for Nightlight here. Marco with the only injury so far, wouldn't even be surprised if we see that taking a reset. So Elysium definitely up for an insane counterplay.
And that's going to be another teleport out from Nightlight and a missed basic attack there. Still only one injury on the board for him as he's throwing these pallets and snares out, not to not much avail here. as another pallet going to be dropped here by Pedro HZ. Holds W there, getting the better of Nightlight in the mind game over towards the main building window as well. Going to be snared up there, but what a nice vault call out there from Pedro HZ. He's just wasting even more and more time here, and Nightlight still struggling to find his first down, Dyer.
And off we go with another generator. That's now really needed. The Nightlight is coming back here with some pressure because Elysium is setting up on these objectives, is making sure that the trial is coming together for them, and it just feels like impossible to get these downs. They're using the resources perfectly. They are making sure that it's coming together. Another generator being completed, 2 generators remaining. Prion, there's not even the slightest mistake that you could potentially benefit from.
The only mistakes coming out from Elysium right now are the fact that they have 2 injuries on the board, Dyer, and that is not really saying much at all in terms of mistakes. It is a near perfect survivor performance for them so far, as Freddy was their pick, by the way. That's going to be Marco finally going down. Only 1 generator to go with 4 survivors standing, and this is Nightlight's first hook.
First hook on 1 generator remaining. Why not? If you're playing against Elysium, that can happen, because as said, like, especially when we talk about the weaker killers, right? For example, more than 1 killer like Freddy is, you do rely on some mistakes being done by the survivor team. If they are playing perfectly, it will be really, really difficult. Invictus has demonstrated that as well in the previous trial. So we kind of need a little bit of a hiccup, I feel like, on the survivor side. We either need a little bit overcommitment, too much confidence, maybe a unhook that turns into a trade, but if that's not given and Elysium is just continuing their fast, great trial, we will have a difficult time reaching the comeback here.
This is a miracle needed for Invictus here at Dyer. I mean, so many things need to go wrong for Elysium here for a comeback to even be possible, as Dream Pallets are going to be coming out there, but that's going to be Marco waking himself up, as well as Xeno here on the ace. Waking yourself up is so important against this Freddy, and I mean, Nightlight is just being pulled in 10 different ways at once here. He can't let go of these gens, as there's only 1 remaining, and he's just got no pressure. It's going to be Marco going down again, but I doubt Elysium cares, because this is only his 2nd hook. The tunnel out is nowhere close to being complete, and almost all of the gens are completed.
Yeah, how do you recover from a situation like this, right? Nightlight, unfortunately, in a rough spot, and it is also incredible to see that, right? We are talking about one of the most experienced killers in the entire competitive community for years. And it looks so easy when Elysium is doing it. They are playing so strong here right now, so coordinated, and making it really hard for Nightlight to take the advantage here. Good decision to go back onto the main building, keeping an eye on the generators, because you need to accept for now that the survivors are not handing out the stages that you would like to see. We basically need an endgame speedrun, Prion. We need 5 more stages, so we could potentially down 2 of the fresh hooks back to back. For example, an injured Xeno, for example, an injured Silhey, and maybe we can pull it back that way.
He can't even commit to this healthy Pedro HZ, who doesn't even seem to have a pallet or window there. It's going to be the balanced landing out from Marco. Not going to matter, though, as he is going to go down in the corner. Eruption on that main building generator. But again, I mean, Elysium probably doesn't even care if Marco dies here. This is going to be the tunnel out. But we're going into the 3v1 with significant progress on all of these last generators. He's going to use that teleport on the Shack gen. Can't even afford to kick it, though, because he doesn't have Eruption off cooldown yet. And still, Pedro HC, healthy, working that main building generator, and that's what Elysium is going to be banking on here, as he doesn't get that M1 onto Silhey. That is so painful for Nightlight. He's going to get the snare now, but that only wakes him up, or only puts him to sleep. He wasn't even asleep yet.
And it's so sad. Nightlight is trying so hard, and yet it feels like they are one step ahead, and they unfortunately really are. The final generator is coming through. Xeno is a fresh hook, but that wouldn't be enough, because that would then be the 6 stages on 2 survivors. We need 8 if we don't make it to 4. So we need to catch one other survivor that is about to walk out of the door here, and Silhey is obviously the better target for that, and we do actually catch Silhey. Up here has to go white in order to avoid the pallet that does cause some danger here, but Xeno obviously picked up in the distance now. Pedro taking care of that. It is a game against the time, but they're giving up on that. Pedro is rotating back into the pallet here. Prion, there is the chance, a wild chance.
Now, hold on a second here, Dyer. The Sloppy Butcher coming in at the last second. Not able to get the reset quite in time. He's going to get the hit onto the healthy survivor, though. Not able to put Xeno immediately back down onto the ground. And Xeno going to be forcing locker here. But hey, I don't think he makes it over to Silhey there. Pedro HZ is injured. He's going to be making it over now. Silhey is very close to being asleep here. I mean, that might have been a teleport opportunity there. Yeah, he gets the teleport on the heal because Pedro HZ healed while asleep, and now he's going to be going down in the edge map as well. Silhey has to be going for this unhook here. Does he make it in time, though? He will be able to get this unhook here, but Dyer, this is actually really close to being in favor of Nightlight here. These survivors from Elysium have to play this perfectly. He goes up on the hill, checking the doors here. I mean, I think if he gets 3 of these survivors, Dyer, he just wins.
This is incredible. It is an incredible story how this 4th set concludes here with just a few seconds on the board. And Silhey, it's great if Silhey escapes, but that would not be enough. It is the question if Xeno can make it out, and we are very far, but Silhey is going down, and that's one of the other fresh hooks. Xeno staying in the trial. He has no other chance really, but with Silhey going onto the hook, and another survivor following right after as Pedro, we would accumulate enough stages here. So it is Nightlight and Invictus pulling it last second, question mark, because Pedro can theoretically still escape through the hatch or the escape gates, and now it's confirmed. Now we have the pickup, so that's going to be 10 stages, I believe, definitely more than 7. And we are here after set number 4, ladies and gentlemen, and we are basically at the exact point where we started 3 hours ago. We are back on a tie. 2, 3 more sets to go to really take the crown here. It is absolutely insane.
Just what an incredible hard-fought game from Nightlight there. To think that he met that win condition after getting his first down and hook to having 1 generator remaining. Nightlight is able to bring it back, get 3 survivors on the ground, and just really hard-fought performance here. Freddy was clearly Elysium's pick here in the draft, so to steal that away from them and make this series tied up at 2-2, gotta be a huge morale booster for Invictus.
Absolutely insane. I want to throw it early to the analyst desk again, because I really want to hear what they think about this. Also about the entire picture here, about the fact that we stand on a 2-2 after set number 4. Guys, take it away, please.
Look, I don't know how many times I need to tell y'all, but you cannot count out my dog, Nightlight, the goat light out here in the fog, able to bring things on back. It's funny, actually, it felt like for a minute, Flightless, I was watching, I was like, wow, things seem to really be unraveling quickly. And then all of a sudden, able to pull things back in the end. Walk us through trial number 8 a little bit there.
Well, like, this game was extremely rough for Nightlight. The obviously the RNG was pretty good for the Elysium survivors, and they had just amazing chases. Like, Nightlight did get rid of a lot of resources, but Elysium also got rid of a lot of gens. The issue being is that Nightlight has Sloppy and Nancy's Masterpiece. Nancy's Masterpiece.
Another trip back into the fog.
Thank you so much, Q. And we are here on Wrecker's Yard, a map so good they made it twice just to stop the chances of Eerie of Crows showing up. Got Nightlight here on the Nurse, not usually the killer that we see on Wrecker's Yard, but he's already going to be finding Silhey here over towards the corner. 2 blinks there, not going to result in a hit. That's going to give Silhey a little bit of distance as he goes over towards the corner here. Not going to opt to throw that pallet because this killer doesn't play pallets. It's going to be the first blink hit coming in. That was a 1 blink. Danger for Silhey here. He goes through the dumpster, and nice pathing there from Silhey. Able to survive, breaking that line of sight. And he's going to survive to live another day here on the broken truck. Second set of blinks coming in here for Nightlight. Overshoots a little bit on the first one, but the second one is picture perfect. And that's going to be the first down here for Nightlight.
Very, very well done from Silhey and Nightlight. I feel like it was a good recovery there, but definitely bought a lot of time for his team. Hook coming through, and that sets back Xeno and Petrol to 75%. But getting a first generator almost completely out of the way in exchange for the first down is definitely something where you can be happy on the survivor side, feeling that you got some pressure already and that you're ready for the trial, because quite often we do see nurses just taking over. You load into the match and you basically have it down before you even reach the gens in the first place. So good to see that Nightlight is able to get that onto Silhey, not joking around with the tunnel out. That's going to be the deep wound immediately, and we will go for the prediction, but just holding W here on the side of Silhey. A nice move towards the left side there in order to make sure that Nightlight cannot go for the down, and this is a very important run here. On the edge of the map, getting stuck there, unfortunately. 2 generators completed. Silhey turning out to be a very, very strong nurse runner. This is beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful pathing there from Silhey, kind of calling out that Nightlight would blink to the corner. It's going to get picked up once again. No decisive strike out from him here. Remember, those strong perks are going to be in the trial here against the Nurse. Silhey put up on his second hook here, but significant gen progress out from Elysium so far. Got Pedro HZ waiting with the deliverance there for the people on Marco, and I'm assuming, yeah, it's going to be the dead hard build there on Xeno. Actually, could we flip back to Silhey's perks for a second here on the hook? I would like to make an observation here. Yes, Silhey intentionally did not use his decisive strike on that second down, presumably to bait Nightlight into committing to this tunnel out. He's not the obsession either, so this is going to be a seriously nasty surprise for Nightlight. Really good layered survivor play coming in here from Elysium. And that's going to be Silhey making it down to the bottom of the map here while his team continues to crank gens. Silhey here, he is going to go down there, but look what he is sitting right next to with that decisive strike. He also has the Lithe, going to hit the DS and go straight to the window there. Distance created here for Silhey. And now, how long can you live, Silhey? Actually doubles back into the killer there, but Nightlight on point with that second blink. Reads Silhey's pathing there, and that is going to be the tunnel out.
For a short moment with the surprise, turning from Nightlight into Shocklight, but we are back onto track, getting the elimination that we were looking for. But the elimination is coming through on 4 generators completed. I don't think we make that over there in time, so insane work by Elysium, but a 3v1 against the Nurse is already difficult on the Wrecker's Yard. It can be even more tricky, and we see it right here from this POV. It is in 1/2 of the map basically, so it is not the best spread for our survivors. Nurse will feel pretty confident and happy about that. Firecracker coming out that prevents the second blink from happening. Nice play by Xeno there, but that also means that we have the 2 blinks available now, but we are able to just bamboozle Nightlight there. Very well done by Xeno, making sure time is wasted and also the chase can not happen. The 2 survivors at the shack, they are leaving as early as possible. We see it right here. The deliverance is ready as well. So Elysium has more in the back pocket, and seeing how well they are doing on the communication here, really love it.
Yeah, Elysium here is playing extremely clean here on Survivor. I mean, not giving anything to Nightlight for free here. They got almost the maximum amount of progress in exchange for that tunnel out onto Silhe. And now they're playing extremely slow here, trying not to give an injury near any of these gens, as that's going to be Marco taking a hit there, running immediately away from the generators, and possibly even going towards that edge map. First blink coming out here, and he's going to plot twist there. Incredibly smart play out of Marco. He's able to tell his team exactly when he's going down, both to counter the eruption and to force the pickup out of Nightlight, wasting that much more time, forcing him to get that hook in a not advantageous position. Because if you don't pick up that plot twist survivor, they just get up healthy instantly, as that's going to be the last gen completed. Dire Elysium here is on fire on the survivor side.
End game we go, ladies and gentlemen, with 4 stages. Can you believe that? If you would ask a person, and I will do this after the stream, I will go outside of my house to my neighbor and say, end game 4 stages, what killer did we witness? They will not reply Nurse. They will probably call the police if I do that, but it's just so you get the example here. Nightlight trying now to get the hook stages together, and Petro going down onto the floor here, but that is really all you can do, right? Getting these 3 extra stages, that is basically, yeah, a little bit of cosmetic to the result, I would say, but 7 stages on the Nurse Prion, that is bad news, to say it carefully.
And it might be less than 7 stages, Dire, as the Deliverance is charged on Pedro HZ. He's going to be waiting here for the pull. Possible hatch play coming in. He might also try to run for the door. Curious to see how this plays out, as Nightlight is staying nearby the hook. Survivors are taking time to heal in the door, and you can tell that they're waiting to give Pedro HZ the call here for when to pull. As Marco has that sprint burst 99, Xeno also in the mix here to possibly take a hit, or will they just be leaving? They might be trying to bait Nightlight into thinking that the Deliverance isn't in play, going for a save. It's going to be Marco probably with a 99 sprint burst play here, possibly trying to make Nightlight miss. He's going to get hit though with the sprint burst. This might be trouble for Elysium if Nightlight can land the follow-up blink. Blink's coming out now. He needs to get through them and get to Marco, but it's not going to work. Marco pathing back towards the hatch now. Will he make it to that backside? Goes around the gen. It's not going to be enough. Marco going to be traded out, and that is going to be, I believe, the same amount of hook stages as it would have been without the play.
It is indeed, but with a little bit more shaking, because Elysium definitely left the mark with that, saying, even if it looks like the game is over, we put another challenge in front of you, and we're going to make sure that you have a little bit of a difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, a few words for the future, because we are about to end Season 10 today. It has been a fantastic tournament, and first of all, I would like to thank everyone who came around for the streams. You guys are showing an incredible support every weekend with your messages, with your energy that you put into it, with the support that you have for your teams, your players, and even for us here. So thank you a lot for that. Thank you for everyone who left a sub, everyone who left a cheer, everyone who is spreading the words, sharing our tweets, watching our YouTube videos. Ladies and gentlemen, off we go again for the second trial with the Nurse. And Prion mentioned it, it's a killer that doesn't really play around pallets. However, in case you're not playing on a MacBook, you can still make the use out of Windows. And that might be the case right here on the edge map. No, we're just running back into the midsection of the Wrecker's Yard. Is it going to be a double blink? No, the tree is stronger than Xeno. So Kexo just also with a good first chase here, not the double blink. Oh, Jimmy is choosing on the edge map. That's exactly what we need. Really strong eventually the down, but that definitely means that Spitsdan and Petro have spread across the generators in the distance, and that's going to be a good first start for the survivors where they can be happy with.
Yep, and Invictus can be very happy with that first down onto Kexo. I have said it before, I will say it again. Random oblong rocks on the edge map are Nurse's hardest tile to deal with, as Kexo buying just more and more time there in the edge map, having a good death spot to give his team time to do the gens here. And it looks like Xeno just does not care at all about staying around this hook. He's going to be getting the pop goes the weasel onto that gen as the For the People comes down onto Kexo in the distance and starting a fresh chase with Dan, who paths perfectly around that Z-wall to remain healthy for now. Firecracker a little bit too early, but Dan still able to confuse Xeno here, and look at that pathing Dire. Dan remains healthy and pre-drops the pallet at that. Just buying a lot of time here on this 4 lane, and I mean, every second here that Dan is still up, that's more generator progression here for Invictus, as they do need to get out of here with 7 stages or less, as Dan going to go down as well. But I mean, 2 hook stages on 2 fresh survivors, that's a good start for Invictus.
And that's the tricky thing to keep in mind, right? We need to get our heads around the win condition. 2 generators though in the distance. This is how you set up for a strong trial here. Kexo around doing a little bit of hide and seek with this win condition. You want to make sure that you don't get found too quickly, that you don't hand out a potential quick 2-tap. Splits over here. Is he able to delay the down into Xeno? But the double back a little bit expected there. That's going to be the down right there. Pedro grinding on a generator, then immediately hopping onto one in the distance. So they are aware they need to be quick, they need to be efficient, and they need to grind here. Almost halftime, 3rd stage already. 7 stages are needed overall. So it is definitely rough. We need a long chase in the mid game, Prime.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a really good start for Xeno, despite the fact that he's not going for a tunnel out. If Xeno continues to play this fast, Invictus is not going to meet this win condition, as he's consistently getting chases onto fresh survivors. Looks like he's going specifically for that fresh hook win condition, not really caring about tunneling very much here, as Dan now in chase again. Oh, but he whiffs the dead hard there. He had enough distance to survive, but he didn't know it, as Dan now still at the TL wall, losing that dead hard here. Has to dodge out on another set of blinks here in a second. First one coming in, second one going to miss. And look at the way Dan breaks line of sight. Just beautiful survivor play here against the Nurse. He's eventually going to go down here in the corner, but it's just textbook survivor chase here against the Nurse. It's an entirely different game that you have to play, and Dan is just putting on a clinic here for Invictus.
And we're grinding over here, Kexo. Yeah, let's go. 3rd generator. Towards the win pond we go. Pedro was also working on a generator there, so they are on it. They are with the pressure and they are with the goal in mind. Xeno, however, is aware of the win condition. He will feel good with the pop kick applied here. More than halftime already, so let's hope that Invictus finds a good response here. Xeno will look forward to take the lead again with that 3rd set point. Keep in mind, everyone, 5 set wins are needed in this best of 9. And obviously, slowly, it is also going to be tricky at some point, right? Because you need to focus and concentrate so much. So this best of 9 is also eventually turning into a test of, yeah, who's staying focused longer and who has the commitment, Prime.
I mean, these teams are going to start to get tired here, Dire, in this best of 9, as that's going to be the heal onto Spitz. And you know what that means if you've been watching the builds. That means For the People is back online for Invictus here. As another set of blinks dodged out by Kexo there, going to make it over towards this hill. Kexo is the survivor with Overcome, so if he does end up getting hit here, he's going to be able to make it to exactly where he needs to be for that death spot. But Xeno doesn't want to commit. Wants to hold on to these generators. He's got the call of Brian, giving him information here on who is working what. Trying to find somebody in a bad spot here. He didn't want to chase the Overcome survivor, but this other survivor here, this is Dan. This might be what he wants, as Dan is dead on hook. I'm surprised there wasn't a For the People play here from Invictus, and that's going to be Dan missing the dead hard and going down. Trouble for Invictus here, as they can't afford to lose a survivor this early. Going into the 3v1 against a Nurse, not what you want, not exactly where you want to be here, Dire.
Dan leaving the trial, but we have so much pressure on these generators. 2 more stages basically, except Spitz is being found and hooked, because that would be the 4th survivor that Nightlight never hooked in this case. Yeah, 2 stages would be enough, 3 stages otherwise for Xeno here. And we made some progress into the reverse. Pedro, go for it, Jimmy. We need you. We need this chase right now. The Invictus fans are going to cheer for that, while the Elysium fans are now jumping up on the balcony because Xeno successfully ended the chase almost instantly after the reverse stun. So we are back onto track for the win condition. 2 more stages. It would essentially be enough if we have the elimination. And oh no, misplay onto Spitz, calculating that he would basically be done there, getting dragged away. And that now, I don't know, I'll copy Q here. I don't know, chat, okay, no, I can't do that. Q, can you do that for us?
I don't know what resolution y'all are watching this one in chat, but that does indeed look like a 4K to me.
Thank you. Take it away, Jimmy.
Talk about an impressive performance here. I mean, Xeno coming out and getting her done. I mean, you had to come out, and I mean, an obtainable win condition for sure. But I think when we talk about being at a pivot point here in set number 5, after dropping 2 sets for Xeno to be able to come out and put on a dominant performance like this, I mean, Ratz, you really can't ask for much more, right?
No, you can't. It's a picture perfect game. Like, he hit basically every blink, or at least he hit every blink that mattered. And especially Reckless Yard, the way that the map works is a very punishing map for the killer if you are not hitting your blinks. You've seen it on Nightlight, with the chases taking a little bit longer than on Xeno, and even on Nightlight when he was like getting the tunnel out through at the end, 4.5 generators were basically completed already. And unlike Xeno's game, this did not happen.
Ends up going down quick. I mean, it feels like it's that simple. Is there anything else that you can break down as far as that last trial and to add on top there, Flightless?
Well, you could tell from Xeno's playstyle that he knew that the win condition for Invictus was going to be difficult. Like 6 stages is not very easy to get versus a Nurse. So he was just going for those fresh hooks, trying to make sure that even if he got 7th stage,
Different killer this time. This is not one that you often see in comp DVD. It's going to be OB on the Huntress here, looking to put Elysium onto match point in this grand finals. He's got the Ruin, he's got the Pain, Resonance, Agitation, of course, on the Huntress, because those basement hooks are so incredibly strong for this killer. He's already seemingly got his eyes on somebody here, holding up that hatchet, going over towards the edge map here. And how these filler pallets like this one are played are going to be the key here for the Huntress. How long will these chases take on the fillers? And that's going to be a miss there onto Rocket. He's able to drop the pallet without getting hit, forcing a kick out of Obi.
And yeah, we definitely want to see some snipes today from Obi. We all remember, hopefully, that he's the god of the Huntress, has really made his name in Season X at the beginning here. So it would be kind of great to finish off in the same way, right? So if Obi can throw some nice snipes today, it will obviously be more difficult against an experienced survivor team as Invictus, but a nice one here onto Nightlight. That's going to be the injury right here, but then Nightlight moving entirely different around the tile here, making sure that the line of sight is broken and the hatchet cannot find the target, and now also really making sure that he's keeping the distance towards the Huntress. Obi needs to calculate carefully. With these hatchets, only 1 remaining. After that, you would not now have to go for the reload here. So final chance basically, and with a nice move, Nightlight is able to dodge that. So fantastic chase to open this up for Invictus.
Critical miss there from Obi Dyer. That was his last hatchet, and he should have had that. Nightlight was caught in the medium vault, and he's not going to go down there either. The reload is forced. This first chase is taking incredibly long time. Nightlight started out this chase by getting hit in the open, but has just been playing perfectly on that double window tile. Now over to this jungle gym with no pallet. Nightlight continuing to check spot perfectly. And where is he, Dire? Obi is not even in chase here, as the first gen is going to be completed. Nightlight surely finally goes down now, as he's going to get grabbed and put up on a pain resonance.
And here we go now. The hook stage coming out for 2 generators in the distance. That's a great trade for our survivor team. They will feel good about that. However, Obi has proven many times that he can make a nice comeback. And especially with the Huntress, Obi is an absolute machine. So you better be careful on the side of Invictus, because Obi is a legend when we talk about this killer. Unfortunately, not hitting that. Come on, Obi. Come on. Come on. Do it. Do it. Unfortunate. I'm such an Obi fan. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. If you remember the early tournament of Season X, then you would also now, for one trial, rip your Invictus shirts off, put the Elysium shirts on, and for the fact if you already root for Elysium, then you're just ready for the incredible Huntress talent that we have here. And I really hope that Obi can show us some expression like this one on Ferdinand. Yeah! Oh, this is what I'm up for here with Obi. This is what we are waiting for. Another one. Come on. Oh. I love when Obi's playing Huntress. I love it. I'm a fan.
Dan injured with global range across the map there. What a shot from Obi as Nightlight goes second stage, and we're starting to see why the Huntress is choosing to hook Nightlight in the back of the map there. She's just standing on the hill here and making sure that no survivors can even get into this area. There's a veritable 3-gen down here. I mean, it's not even really a 3-gen. It only is because Obi can stand on that hill and just laser hatchets over towards that generator over by the bus. So now Obi going closer and closer to the hook, trying to secure this kill onto Nightlight, and I'm sure he's going to be able to do it here, Dire. As are you really, as Invictus, going to send survivors in to take those machine gun injuries from the Huntress? I don't think so. They're going to be content to go into the 3v1 with pretty significant gen progress here. Spitz is extremely close to finishing the 4th generator, as Nightlight finally going to die. Now down to 1 generator here. With that deja vu, they can see where all of them are. It might be a little bit problematic with the hill, but here for Invictus, it's all going to come down to how long this next chase can be.
Obi, I want more, because this is the perfect comeback here with the Huntress now, even getting an elimination out already. What a play here by Elysium, being so strong with that Huntress. No surprise that this killer has been selected for the best of 9. Obi ready to shine. We have 1 already here, so hopefully we can get some more here. And off we go again with the hatchet, scanning the area, the territory of Obi here. And is it... Yeah! There we go again! And I have seen that some people said I'm biased for Invictus, apparently. No, I just celebrate whenever something is really great. And if you, like, then in this case, I'm biased for Elysium in this trial, because what Obi is putting together here on this trial is absolutely incredible. It is the peak Huntress gameplay that we look for so much in the best of 9. Unfortunately, not finding that one. Rocket with the comeback? Question mark. Is it going to be successful now with a difficult mind game here? He does make it in time. That's a huge loss now for Obi, Prion. That was a necessary down, just like Nightlight earlier, locked in the medium vault.
Yeah, and now Obi here in a tough situation. Rocket in danger here on this generator. I mean, that broken truck one is so highly progressed here, but now Invictus needs to play slow once again. As soon as Obi gets up on that hill, they are all in danger. Moonwalk coming out now from Obi, trying to get onto Spitz here, but as that 110 killer, Spitz is just going to play his distance for as long as he possibly can. Finally gets hit by the hatchet through the window there, And it looks like Spitz is going to be going over towards the corner. Does he have his favorite tile here? No, there's no Z-wall here, unfortunately, for Spitz. He is still going to be going to the corner, though. Eventually going to go down, but that final gen is completed by Dan off in the distance. So no 4K on generators remaining here for Obi. Still, though, Invictus has a little bit of a mountain to climb to get these doors open when there's that hill in the middle. I'm going to eat my words here because Rocket has already been on the gate for so long. Hatchet coming out from range. It's going to hit Dan, the healthy survivor, but it's not going to matter because he had a health state to give. That's going to be 2 out for Invictus.
Crazy snipes from Obi. Basically, he's proving again why he's so strong, but we can see the difference compared to the beginning of the tournament where the team almost collapsed under this pressure from the snipes. Invictus did struggle a bit, but you can really see on these experienced survivors it does take a little bit more, and we definitely had some moments in this trial where Obi unfortunately made a mistake. The Nightlight Hatchet needs to hit when he vaults over that window, as well as when Rocket is locked in into jumping out of that window and landing in front of him. If you want to pull a set in the grand final, these hatchets need to land. Analysts, take it away.
Well, we had
Marco, Pedro, and Silhey, so the 1v1 showdown between the Pedros again, and you definitely need an early down, I feel like, to set sail for making a safer win here.
Yeah, Dyer, absolutely. And this is a confident build from Pedro, as he's already getting a first hatchet landing onto Silhey. Second hatchet coming out, not going to land there. And an altruistic pallet throw from Marco there, hiding behind the rock to delay that first chase. That is a play that we don't often see, but it is extremely effective at disorienting the killer. As the Shack pallet instantly pre-dropped as well. Elysium here is not here to play Dyer. But to my other points about this being a confident build, the inclusion of Grim Embrace kind of suggests that Pedro is betting on going for multiple fresh hooks here.
Onto Silhey here with the responsibility to make sure that Elysium stays for a long time, but going down right here. Pedro for a moment thinking if he should go for the reload immediately. We saw the little look at the locker there, but then saying, no, we just want to make sure that we get the first hook stage together here. And also getting the pain res. And with the reload, if he would have done that before, they might have gotten the first generator out already. So definitely the correct decision there from Pedro.
There actually is no
first.
pain res here, Dyer. It's just Grim Embrace and Ruin. So those survivors, they thought there was going to be pain res and they got off the gen, but instead they were just met with the Ruin. So it's a really interesting build here from Pedro, especially with the deadlock coming out, and he's just going to allow the unhook onto Silhey as well. Completely different playstyle than we saw from Obi.
Yeah, thank you, Prion, for the little correction there. This is what I meant, guys. Like, Prion studied DBD more than your university script there. This is why we love it. Does get an Obi, as we Germans would say, Obi Schelle here onto himself, and that's an unfortunate down right here, because you really need to make sure with this win con, Prion, that you don't get too many stages in this early game. We still have 4 generators at the beginning, so yeah, you really need to make sure that you now have a longer one in the mid game.
Yeah, and you cannot give a second down onto Silhey that quickly. And I was just saying before that Grim Embrace suggests that Pedro isn't going for a tunnel out, but when you can hit a shot like that, I mean, you're going to take a tunnel out regardless of whether you're running Grim Embrace. It's going to be another shot there missing onto Marco over in the corner. Deadlock activating again as the second generator is completed, and now you're Pedro here. I mean, you may not have come in here expecting to go for a tunnel out, but at this point, it's definitely your best play.
Again, onto Silhey, and we mentioned it, we need a longer run, we need a chase that sets sail for a comeback here, because losing a survivor now with 3 generators still on the board would be too early. So let's see if we get some bodies thrown in or any plan. Zeno taking 1 hit, that won't be enough really, barely taking a distance to the right side. making sure that the hatchet doesn't land, but Pedro will not leave Silhey in peace. So we either see Marco or Pedro coming over to help a little bit, or we set up for a pallet or flashlight save. Good dodges there by
One hatchet
Silhey,
left.
making sure that Invictus has a difficult time. And we again, need to go for the reload. That costs some time, and that's now a chance to make a comeback, right? Because he just had to drop chase here. That costs.
Yeah, and Pedro here, I honestly don't hate dropping Silhey because he sees that the survivors are in his face trying to do that main shack generator, and he still has Ruin up, going for the extra value on that perk. And his win condition doesn't necessarily mandate a super fast tunnel out either, so trying to go for extra fresh hooks here is Pedro, maybe shifting over to the Grim Embrace playstyle, as now onto Marco here, over by this 4 lane. The Ruin is going to be removed from the trial though, so trouble here for Pedro. Nice hit there through the window. Now Marco stuck at a relatively weak tile here, the double window. Moonwalk from Pedro, but it's not going to work because Pedro HZ is there with the head on.
I was confused there because he usually never loses a mind game so easily, and I was like, there might be a different story, and then actually with the head on there. So good that we had this backup plan on the side of Elysium. 3 injuries though, so we need the same awareness for potential snipe. We need to make sure that we are not getting surprised with a hatchet and then just going down unexpectedly. Next generator being completed. That's 4 generators, 1 more, and we are into the end game with just 2 stages at the moment. So basically 4 more stages on 2 more survivors across the board will be the win. Alternatively, we need 5 more stages. Good one onto Zeno. Now we have a little bit of time, and we are next to the generator with a lot of progress. So that's now a potential for Pedro here.
He can't kick that generator though, because if he goes over to it, it's going to get blocked with the Grim Embrace 10 meters away from the hook. And so kind of an unfortunate situation, going to waste the time bought by Grim Embrace there for Pedro. So he's got 2 generators here over on this hook side of the map, and another one over by the bus that we already know is being doubled. Marco stealthing in with the urban evasion, trying to go for this unhook. I don't think this unhook is going to be contested too hotly by Pedro, as going to be Zeno unhooked here. A lot of work still needs to be done here for Pedro to meet this win condition, as he needs to win multiple fresh chases here onto Marco and maybe even Pedro HZ. Second hatchet gonna miss there. Unfortunate. The movement out of these Elysium survivors is just too good, as faking that he's gonna drop the pallet there. That's gonna be the final generator completed. This hatchet needs to land. He is going to get the down onto Marco. Going to go for the pickup here, but Dyer, how does the math work out here? Gonna be not able to get him to the basement, but the doors are already open.
Tricky scenario now. So we have hook stage number 4 coming in, and it would actually be enough if he dies, because then we have 6 stages on 3 individual survivors, and that is better than getting 6 stages on 2 individual survivors, because in DBDLeague, when the hook stages are tied, we reward the killer that spread the stages across more survivors, basically anti-tunnel, you could say, and more rewarding for the individual hooks. So they need to rescue Marco. There's no choice. They have to go back in. If it all falls apart, so be it. But if you leave right now, you definitely lost this trial. Marco cannot die, and Marco is saved, and Marco is running off to the exit. That's the deep wound, but Pedro also remembers there was someone over here in this part of the trial, and that is Zeno, and Zeno would be 2 additional stages. That could also be the 6 stages on 3 survivors. So getting Zeno would be enough as well, but Zeno is choosing, and Zeno is not ready to die here. Silhey, who's now moving in, would not be enough. That would only be 1 stage. So Elysium pulls it. That is the match point that we were looking for.
Match point for Elysium. Extremely clean survivor play for them against the Huntress. And I mean, it's just classic textbook chases against the Huntress here. Even with a injured Death Hook survivor running around on the map, Pedro didn't feel confident enough to go and get that kill. It's because our competitive survivors here are just that good against the Huntress. This killer has been out for so long, she's so figured out that you can't even really commit to chases in a strong area against these players. They're just that good. But I'm sure our analysts will have a little bit more about that to say. So let's throw it back to the death survivors. And I mean, this is where you have to prove for Elysium that you are the better team here. This is one of Nightlight's best killers. I mean, he's already lost one of his best killers in the Nurse today. And this couldn't be a better match point set.
This couldn't be indeed. The Artist is a killer that we all remember going for Invictus very often. Nightlight on Artist specifically has been really, really strong. On the other hand, I remember quite some trials where Elysium was juicing an Artist in season 10. So I wholeheartedly agree. It is a super great showdown here potentially, and Elysium with the match point will feel really, really good about it. Zeno is the first one in chase. He likes taking responsibility. He likes taking responsibility as the first runner, especially for the team. So let's see what he has prepared for us with the sprint burst ready there. Really, really confident, showing off. Nightlight with the mind game, expecting though that it would be the double vault. So nice first injury here.
Yeah, Zeno injured up there, triggering that rapid brutality for Nightlight. He's making it down towards the corrupt side of the map. Crow going to come out and not land there. Just was trying to maybe get the injury version of the Crow there, not touching the terrain. Now Zeno playing the short side of this pallet. Gonna make it back over to the window as well here. Nicely played so far for Zeno, and another miss on the Crows. Nightlight goes for a vault, trying to get some distance onto Zeno, cornering him there. But Zeno holds W and is just gonna take the bird swarm there. Now zoned off of the shack. I don't believe Zeno makes anything else here, Dire. He would rather go down to the M1 than the bird.
Yeah, and he delayed for quite a few extra seconds here in the corner. That ensures the first generator. And knowing Elysium's efficiency, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another one as well. But this time, it is the pain rest coming out. So Marco will have a little bit of a setback here on the generator. But we are all the way up on the top side, so we don't have to worry about the killer immediately standing next to us. Yeah, the interesting fact about ARP, right, is also that you really have this bottleneck shape that we are used to a little bit from the suffocation pit. So it will be interesting now how Nightlight plays this out, how he coordinates the fact that he has the hook stage here together with the generator setup that he can hold. We have a nice 3-gen on this side over here. Could be a little bit better on the right side. The generator is quite far towards the top. There are better scenarios possible, but at least we have something to work with here. Pedro taking the Crows again and again, just jumping into the shack locker to get rid of them. But basically right now, Nightman is doing a good job here. He wastes a little bit of time onto Pedro, so the generator is going a little bit slower. We confirm Zeno into the second stage in a second, so it's going okay for the killer, I would say.
Yeah, if Nightlight is able to get this second stage here, this is going to be really good for him, as it looks like he will be able to. Stilhay eats a bird there. He gets hit by the Idol Crow as well, and that's going to be second stage onto Zeno.
Problems team is the correct term from the comp community for that. Now Marco on the hook here, but the target should be clear. That will most likely be Zeno who would be eliminated, but on the other hand, we see it perfectly here. Zeno is going to the other side, and Nightlight really doesn't want to leave the 3-gen that he's trying to defend here, so we might just see the same game that we played when Zeno was hooked with Marco now, progressing the stages, keeping this generator setup down here, and using the Crows a little bit to make sure that the generator progress is delayed. And so far, I feel like it worked out for Nightlight, and if he's ready to work with the 3-gen down here and doesn't worry about the gens on the top side, I feel like this is a good strategy to pick here.
Yeah, he really wants to keep Pedro HC off of this shack generator. He's got this 3-gen on the bottom side here. You notice just how hard Nightlight is playing for this 3-gen. He didn't even bother to chase the Death Hook Xeno there after he was confirmed to second stage. Pedro HC just continually forced into that locker, in and out, as he, is trying to complete that important gen that's a part of the triangle here.
And Pedro, our shack worker, basically, again on a mission, this time not getting rid of the crows. No, never mind. I was about to say maybe rotating in now for the save, but we have the same strategy perfectly by Nightlight. Really like to see it, right? He has a plan, he enforces it, and he's staying calm and collected with his strategy, which is also something, because it's basically match point against you. So having a plan like this and slowly enforcing it and slowly progressing the stages is kind of huge.
Yeah, as long as Nightlight is controlling this hill area, he's going to be in a good spot here regardless of which gens get done across the map. So Marco here on his second stage, getting those skill checks, as it seems like Elysium just wants to play this slow. That's going to be a Severed Hands swarm onto 2 survivors across the map, as there's no gen kicking perks here for Nightlight, so this is kind of a dangerous situation to have this Shack gen in. You can see that he's actually protecting the Shack gen more than the hook now, as Marco going to die on that hook.
Yeah, now we finally say goodbye to the first survivor here, and we still have 2 generators remaining. Like normally when a killer holds a 3-gen like this, the survivors either slam all the remaining gens already to kind of for the win condition, right? Getting the generators that are basically guaranteed out of the way, or you want to break the 3-gen while you're still having all human resources, so while you're still 4 survivors in the trial. The fact that we now lost a survivor and we still have the 3-gen and we have another generator, that is actually huge for Nightlight.
Yep, really good stuff here out from Nightlight. He's in a very strong position here. You can see these survivors just pre-running away from him. They know the area he's trying to protect. As Pedro HZ starting chase here in the middle of the map now, just trying to get away from that generator area. And in a situation like this, these survivors are just gonna accept their fate and complete that generator that's over by the main building, just to get that win con a little bit better. The Shack gen continues to regress.
And we find our edge map Xeno here with the crows. That's going to be the injury now as well, Pedro. The only one with the health states still available. Everyone else need to be careful. And if we go to the fun bus, he sometimes has a little bit of surprises, but Xeno just going back into the pallet. So that's going to be the down right here, 60%. And 35% on the generators in the distance, but that's going to be another goodbye. Xeno was also hooked with 2 stages, so we might not only set sail here for the 4K1, we might even see 4K2.
A potential 4K2 coming out here from Nightlight with his team's backs against the wall is exactly what you want to see if you're a fan of Invictus here, as Pedro HZ forced over towards this shack. That last generator on the top side of the map is going to get completed, so it will at least be a 4K1 here for Nightlight, but still, this is the 2v1 now, Dire, so still an amazing spot for Nightlight, considering the Artist results we usually see. Going to be a bird injury there onto Pedro as he's forced over to this truck pallet. Gonna not be dropping it there. He has to greed here in the 2v1, making it back around to this bus. I don't think he makes anything else though. Nightlight, he's channeling the bird actually, wants to zone him off of this pallet, but the M1 is going to come out, and that is going to be the pickup in the 2v1.
And I just want to point it out again. I think considering the pressure that we see here in this trial at the moment, and Elysium is on match point, right? We are playing set number 7 at the moment, so trial 13. The concentration fades a little bit, the stamina fades a little bit, and when you are with the back at the wall and Elysium is basically on match point, the fact that you have such an amazing game plan from the beginning and you are able to slowly but steady execute it without showing any nerves too much is actually something that we can appreciate here. Elysium did a good job. They, unfortunately, I feel like we're just not aware how tricky it can be down there on the shack side, especially with the hooked survivor on the hill. So then it eventually was too late when we already lost one survivor, because the 3v1 is then just a really tricky scenario.
Silhe here going for a final chase here in the middle of the map. These mid-map tiles can be so strong against the Artist with the way that they're chained together, and he just keeps holding W against the Artist. That is the play that you want to make in most situations. Makes the fast vault on that window as well. Just textbook survivor play against the Artist here from Silhe. Gonna make it all the way down to the shack as well. I mean, this is just Elysium trying to boost their morale here. He's finally gonna go down to the bird strike, and that is gonna be the 4K1 secured for Nightlight.
Insane work, exactly what Invictus needed. Now Q and the analyst desk. Is that meaning that we have a safe condition for the next one?
I mean, I keep telling y'all gotta stop counting out my dog Nightlight coming out here and being able to find a pretty darn good performance, if you ask me. But Ratz, I mean, you're the one who's been around for a hot minute. You tell us, how's that performance for Nightlight stack up to the average?
I believe the average, somebody said in chat, was around 6 stages. 6.4 or 5.4 for both teams.
Bit of caretaking, so we send all our greetings and thanks to Prion and his little daughter, and we welcome the one and only Q, like in good old times, brother.
It's like good old times, and we were talking in the break about the potential of Obi getting hooked up with a nice gen spread here from the entity. And look at that here, Dyer, down on Shack side. 3 gens covered up by that corrupt intervention. Now you've got a 4th gen over here as well. All the survivors still on this side of the field, or on this side of the map, I should say. Obi's got a great start.
Absolutely, yeah. He really looks forward to this setup down here and also getting the first injury, but our survivor is able to waste a little bit of time actually rotating away from the tile that we have here. So it does take a little bit longer. Pedro doing a nice job, even taking the edge map now. Eventually the injury is good to go, but he does reach the mid map potentially. So they learned from the previous trial and understood you really don't want to go in either of these 3 gens on the ARP.
Definitely not, and understandably, Pedro trying to shift W Tech down to the other side. Unfortunately, not going to be able to make it through the window. The Artist got some long fingers, bro. That's going to be a quick early down. Obi also will have that pain res here as well for any small progress that had been down on that gen, and, well, that's a pretty darn good start right there, Dyer.
First stage coming out here, Rocket Spits Dan, obviously also feeling motivated with that trial, right? You just need to get the generators done. You don't have to take care of who's walking out of the door later. You don't have to necessarily plan, do we throw in the fresh hook? How many stages can we afford here? But you need to get the generators done in the first place. And we have seen in the previous trial that can still be a challenge. Pedro able to dodge the crows right there to make sure that we are not immediately with the danger of another down here. And once again, rotating back more towards the midsection of the ARP. So I really like that as a strategic mix-up from the previous trial. He's using far more from the ARP and extending the chase far more instead of just staying in one half of the map here. That's going to be the first generator, but should be the down, as we also see now. The Dan is coming in, but that's unfortunate. They take the injury and the down onto Pedro. A little bit of a problem here.
Yeah, Dan, unfortunate risk, and now you have to wonder if he'll pay off. Oh, the sprint though, burst though, cuz gonna be able to make some big distance here and be able to keep themselves upright. It was a big play by Pedro to force themselves down to this main building side, because that did indeed allow them to break up the 4-gen down on the other side of the map. The bad news is Obi does still have a 3-gen that's available on either side and will very easily take this hook deep down on this main side of the map, and will now probably try and flip this map and try and keep as much pressure down this side as they can.
And we see they're taking time a little bit for the reset, making sure that they are keeping it calm and collected. 2 generators have been completed, 2 hook stages so far onto Pedro. A little bit of a hiccup happening there with Dan, but it's now also kind of gone into the reset here. So we can set off again to a calm and sorted trial in best case. Both of these survivors, though, that are lurking here in the midsection have been spotted by Obi, so he knows that everyone is trying to cross at the moment. He also knows that no one is working on the gens, which also is now an important information, because then you can basically camp Pedro, because the survivors are not punishing you right now.
Dan's gonna look to move in here. Will cause a swing and a miss, but an eventual M1 will put a damage on to Dan. Nice job by Pedro to be able to tank that hit, but we'll now try and see just how much distance they can build, trying to find their way all the way down here towards this shack side of the map. And you can also see, as far as from those little legs by Spitz trying to stay around this chase, see if they can help in any way, shape, or form to extend it, because right now it's up to Rocket and Dan to try and break that 3-gen up on the other side. Not going to be able to take the protection hit, and now Spitz may just end up giving over another health state here for free.
Yeah, now we need to be careful here on the side of Invictus, because we are back to everyone injured after we just took a moment, basically went for the resets, right? So you really want to make sure that it's not becoming too difficult here in the trial, because we still have 2 more generators to go, but we have broken the difficult generator setups. We have 2 on the top side, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 on the bottom side, and that queue is a huge difference to the previous trial.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a big thing for Pedro, and the fact that both of your chases after the first one, your second one takes you down to main, gets done stupid, plus 10 wood across the forehead, as Dan looking to try and extend this chase even longer. You've already done a great job of being able to split up the gens, but now if Dan can keep himself on his feet for just a little bit longer, you might be able to buy yourself an additional gen as well. Move it to just 1 more gen needing to be done. Remember, they just simply need to be able to complete the gens. Of course, we do have the ability to make that sound easier than it actually is when we're up here in the caster's boost, but Dan right now serving the juice.
Absolutely, Dan the man. This is what we are used to see from him, and it's good that he now, when it's so important and when it's Elysium on the match point, it's so good that he starts shining again. Invictus needed him now more than ever, but Obi gets the down here, so Elysium still on the road to at least secure the tie here. Now, what would happen if we actually tie the Artist? We will not replay it for now. We will move forward to the next sets, and only when the best of 9 is done and we still don't have a winner, then we would come back to the ARP and replay the Artist in opposite order. A little bit of a firecracker here to distract the killer. Didn't work out. Spitz taking the crows here. And Q, I'm not so optimistic about that final generator.
I don't know. Surely Rocket is just sitting in. Oh, no, not sitting and holding M1. I thought when we had seen earlier they were past midway through. I thought maybe they could just full send and try and finish that. But yeah, instead, just now getting the unhook. And in a similar situation that we were in when we saw Dan get their 100th stage of the DBDL season. Now it's 1 person on hook, 2 players both injured, and nobody working on gens. As much as it had seemed that Invictus had really been able to crank things out earlier, Obi has done a phenomenal job of bringing this trial to a screeching halt.
Yeah, a tie would really not help Invictus here, because it would keep the match point, and we would also now we're plot twisting over here on Dan, making sure that we do get a little bit of a recovery that is so important to have here. But Rocket also going down, Q. That is not what we are looking forward here. We really needed that win, because now Elysium stays on the match point, and now, oh yeah, it's not plot twist. Never mind. He got.
That was just a slingshot. That was one heck of a shot.
Was?
Yeah, to be able to establish the down. So just when it seemed like Invictus
God, I didn't want to imagine that,
was doing their best to be able to send things off to the Plague set, being only one set down. Just as you had mentioned, we've now tied the Artist set, and we will only come back to ARP if we do not find a conclusion to our grand finals here at Suffocation Pit, as well as the Wretched Shop.
That's crazy. I didn't even want to consider that it was the bird, because I was like, this would be a very unfortunate ending right here. But yeah, I mean, we have Obi, right? He sniped earlier with the Huntress, so why wouldn't he just snipe with the Artist across the map as well? That is crazy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, means we are actually with the tie here on the Artist. That means we will have to see how the other sets will go. But Q, just you can take it away for the analyst desk here, but it is hard, right? Because I mean, basically Elysium wanted to avoid the Artist. I feel like Artist was a set where Invictus is a step ahead, and now it's a tie, and now you basically move away from it. So I feel like this works out in the favor of Elysium.
1000%. And Ratz, maybe you can back me up on this, because it definitely was a baller performance from Nightlight in the first half of this. But then all of a sudden we saw, as far as for the survivors this time around for Elysium, they bring things back. So yeah, maybe you don't walk away with the set win, but the fact that it's not a set loss still feels like a win in Elysium's book, does it not?
Do we cleanse, where do we cleanse, and so on. It is absolutely crazy, and it is always so insane to watch these top teams answering these questions. And already about the killer build, we have to discuss something, because that's a Whispers coming out there on Xeno. That is a crazy choice that we do not see very often on competitive stage.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the thought process along the Whispers was more just simply for early game, maybe, in case you were worried that they're going to bring out that old stealth out the corrupt, especially here in this set. Definitely going to be intrigued to see how Xeno uses that here early on. One thing that is always very unique that we do see when it comes to the Plague here is going to be, we'll see a lot of spreading of the pressure early, because once you start getting sick, at some point you're going to be broken and become one shot. So if you can spread that pressure amongst all of the survivors here and then put them into that decision of when do we cleanse, if do we cleanse, that's when Xeno does start to get that power ramp up towards the potential mid to late game. We had mentioned the use of Whispers early to try and identify them survivors to be able to take some early chases, but honestly, haven't been seeing too big a value of it here yet, Dire.
And unfortunately, the stats do not even have a track of the Whispers. It is, in fact, the first time that we see a Whispers since we started tracking the stats, which was 2.5 years ago roundabout. So this is an absolute crazy strategy that we see here. Q, I feel a little bit of nostalgia, not only because I am casting with you here, but it is teleporting me back to 2016, where we were hiding out corrupt intervention.
It's interesting to see the throwback of the strategy, but understandably so. I almost wonder if they're just hoping to delay the inevitable kind of passover of that power, maybe trying to see if that allows them to split pressure on the map a little bit longer. But the problem is, if you wait too long to get on the gens, and then all of a sudden Xeno able to get a relatively quickish down, well then what was the waiting for? Because you haven't been able to build up any power on your side, any pressure over on your side as well. A nice fake here by Kexo. I don't think you're able to make it all the way back around. Xeno lunges forward, finds that first down, and just like that, first hook acquired here from Xeno, and you don't even see a gen done yet.
Crazy, absolute crazy what they pulled here. And this is though the payoff, basically, right? The price you pay is a slower start on the generators, a slower progression of the objectives, because you're spending some time with the hide and seek. So yeah, really interested to see how they now imagine the strategy for the early game, because we also have a survivor over here I was just about to mention, we do have the power possibility right next to us. We are down here on the suffocation pit, not too far away from the survivor on the hook, so Spitz needs to deliver here. Let's see if he's able to dodge the power. The answer is no. That's going to be the injury, and Zeno rotating back and smelling that there would be someone rotating back to take the unhooked. Survivor rotated back, but this basically means Spitz not on a generator right now. The rescuer who got interrupted not on a generator right now. Only now they are able to get back onto the generator, and even though it's great if they get 2 generators out of the way, we still see Kexo going into the second stage here most likely. Are they pulling that? No. Okay, so we need the confirmation there, but I do think that was the second stage onto Kexo just in time. Yeah, we do actually say that it's ready for the elimination, and that's now a setback for Invictus, because that is what Zeno wanted here.
That's big. You force a second stage, and you're able to find your way across the shack side of map as well and find a second fresh hook. So not only do you have one player that is 1 hook away from elimination, you've already been able to start spreading your pressure here as well. You can see we've got this nice little hill over here at shack, which will allow for our survivor to be able to build a little bit of distance. And at this point, if you're Zeno, you got 2 fresh hooks, only 1 gen's done, you got 1 person buried all the way in the back on shack side. You might as well just vibe and make sure you protect this hook.
Yeah, and this is now the decision you face, right? Do you really want to stay in this area here, or how far will you get back into the midsection of the suffocation pit, right? How aggressive do you potentially want to catch an incoming rescuer? How do you want to make sure if they are allowed to cleanse, how quick you want to reinfect them? All of these questions are now on the side of Zeno here. Nightlight dodging behind that little tile. They're able to avoid the infection. Very well done. Dan coming over here as well. So the plan is clean. Spitz needs to be off the hook, and then we do delay it a little bit longer. Dan is going to take that. Nightlight again with the dodge on the tower here. Really, really well done. And all of this costs some time, and if Invictus is now able to put that extra time into the objectives, then we definitely make some steps here towards some good generator progression.
The only thing, though, is who's working the gen. Kexo, and that's it, right? I mean, you sent 2 people in for that save, people not on gens for quite a bit of time, and that's now a 3rd fresh hook here, as well as Zeno continues to spread this pressure here and is going to continue to try and protect these gens down on this side as well. Not going to have a 3 gen, I don't think, to rely on this side. Maybe I'm still wrong. We'll have to wait for the turn all the way around. Maybe he still does have on this side, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I think the important thing now is for the survivors, you have to have a strong next 2-3 minutes of this trial. You have to find a way to rein this thing back in before the snowball continues to compound down for Zeno.
Yeah, he's playing super well when we talk about slowing down the generators, right? If I would be in the audience right now watching that as a fan of Invictus, this would make me pretty sick watching how good the Plague it is. Maybe you don't necessarily puke at this gameplay, but with the Plague here, Zeno definitely setting up a hard time for the Invictus survivors. A dark time, however, it couldn't be, because we have a Nightlight on the roster, so we can definitely pull this back with an iconic strategy. And I hear a whisper in my ear, ladies and gentlemen, that they are setting up a potential counterplay.
I do gotta say that the whispers, and something that I didn't think about prior, was the fact that it does work as a good kind of precursor for you to know when somebody's trying to sneak in for those saves. We've seen Zeno at times feeling comfortable stepping more away from the hook, but when Whispers does kick in, knows that they don't have the ability to stray from that same distance here as well. The save will come across. Remember, Dan did get progressed into Death Hook there if they are taken down, but it will be Spitz currently. Will be trying to take chase around this tile. You have a little bit stronger of a loop to work with, but Zeno right now just simply going to try and hold W, see if they can build up a little bit of bloodlust to establish this down. Meanwhile, Jen's popping off in the distance. One more, and it will be Invictus who gets to work towards the doors.
Crazy how Invictus made it quick and efficient on the generators now, and also Spitz showing off here the skills that we really need in order to make a comeback. Long mid-game chase for a comeback is what we always asked for, and it is being delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, Xeno had such a good early game, right? It was played slow, it was a lot of hide and seek, and if you then get found, you're basically punished on the survivor side. But now it really looks like they have realized it is the match point for Elysium. They need to pull back the pressure, and here we go. They are ready to do the necessary steps. But one more time, ladies and gentlemen, it will be a danger from Xeno here. It is the power coming out, and they are cleansing, because you now also need to make sure that you don't take too much risk on the survivor side. But Q, they need to survive this power without any major damage being taken.
I mean, you're at the point where you do at least still have 4 players in the trial. That is your kind of saving grace compared to where we're at right now. Last thing you want to do is hand pressure back over to Xeno. We do notice a couple of those pools over on this main side can still be used for Xeno as well. So as we see them traverse to this side of the map, actually might see them stop and pick one up as well when we get to the end of this power. Nightlight going to get caught by the ankles and will try to bury themselves as far back into this main building side as possible, working around a pallet. Of course, Xeno does not want to be caught under that. Will lose the last couple of seconds of their power here. Corrupt Purge not quite going to find their mark. Xeno trying to hug the tile and will be able to completely outlast the Corrupt Purge. Swinging a miss, or not swinging a miss, swinging a hit from Xeno will put Nightlight down, but that was a lot of extra time for our survivors here. Oh no.
Oh, and the fight is real, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few millimeters and Nightlight would have been free again, but we can tell Invictus is playing for everything. Invictus is playing for every single... Yeah, I was about to say, you hopefully caught Exo there behind the rock. That would have been a cheeky great play from Invictus right there. And power again, tricky now. We are with the hook stage behind the main building, so we have to reach it as the rescuer. On the other hand though, tricky for Xeno, the gens are not here. The gens are on the other side, but Q, Kexo cannot die here.
No, Kexo can't, because I think there's also another pain res over on this side available to him just outside of this door, if I'm not mistaken. So as much as Xeno hadn't got much use of the pain res early, oh no, he's not going to be able to get use of it here. The 5th gen pops. We've got 4, well, actually 3 players currently in play. Kexo on a hook. They're going to be able to start working on these doors as well. Invictus have come to play here on Suffocation Pit.
They got that final generator, because a lot of times when we talk about the Plague, we do see some 4Ks, right? And a 4K, when you are in the position where you have your opponent with the 1 set and we take the crown scenario, you really need to make sure that you're not playing around the generator win condition. So making sure we take the outs here is actually really important. One last power for the potential speedrun here. Dan is worth 1 more stage, the other 2 survivors have 2. So it is important that Spitz and Nightlight get out of this trial. Speaking from an Invictus POV, Dan in worst case could kind of sacrifice himself, but it does feel like they are playing for the hatch here, as Spitz is just circling around the water tower, trying to waste some time. Nightlight and Dan gonna leave the trial here, so the hatch is available now. Xeno realizes that, might potentially go back, faking that, trying to go for it, but if Xeno goes for the hatch entirely, Spitz basically makes it towards the other side and taking the out. Yeah, he should have enough distance. Xeno with the power hit now. Is that enough? That shouldn't be enough for Spitz though. He would need to dodge the power multiple times. This is an absolute crazy endgame.
It's an endgame that has 1 more shot of the Corrupt Purge. Spitz tries to duck right up against Xeno, but will be unable to do so. When the moon hits your eye and it's your turn to die. That's Amori. That's a big couple of stages to pick up here at the end, because had we seen that last stage be able to leave out there, that's just more momentum to the other side. But as we do get to kind of bring our analyst back in here, I guess the question that I have most here for Flightless, is this the type of survivor performance you were expecting here from Invictus?
If I'm being completely honest, Q, no. I was expecting a bit of a more dominant performance from the Survivor side this game. Now, they did have a very rough start, so the fact that they got this result is really good, but it was mainly down to those chases like mid-game. Xeno just couldn't win anything. Spitz had really good.
All right, Plague and the Suffocation Pit, they really go together so well. And it will be interesting to see, especially what the early game holds for us, right? Will we see an entirely different strategy, more aggressive? And honestly, with Xeno being on the Survivor roster, I'm not surprised that we see more of an aggressive gameplay and not going for hide and seek you.
Unfortunately, not going to be able to pull off the stealth out method here. That is for sure. And now it will be Pedro who will continue to take the chase as they've now found Marco back here behind Shaq. You've already got the infection started on Xeno. You would like to try and be able to get things spread the pressure. Is now Marco going to be just a little sick as well. You've got pressure down here inside your uncorrupted gens. And for that reason, a very good decision to just go ahead and go back to more monitoring your gens and see if you can continue to get more people sick here, Dire.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit of a difference towards or in comparison with the previous trial. Xeno fully infected, Marco with the infection. Very soon when he's touching a generator working on it, it will progress into making him fully broken. So in that regard, Pedro definitely with more pressure from the beginning of this trial. They also don't seem to worry about even working with an infected survivor together on the same generator here. We'll see if Marco then rotates away short before being fully infected. And Silhey is making an inspection of the pallets, checking the quality, if they're all nicely set up, because Behavior is making a quality seal every once in a while for the pallets, and it needs to be reported. So it's good that Silhey is taking care of that additional job here. Pedro does locate the next survivor, and we are on the top side and kind of zoned here. Q, that could be tricky.
Could be tricky. You got to try and find a way to make a lot out of a little because you ain't got no resources down here. Instead, it's going to be a quick spray down of Xeno's feet. You see the proc off in the distance thanks to that eruption as well. And something that is different here in this trial as opposed to the last, as we do kind of bring your eyes down to that bottom left-hand corner of your screen. We had seen Xeno bring in the two different apples. This time around, we actually see Pedro opting for the amulet, which is actually going to allow for an additional 20 seconds every time you get your corrupt purge active.
Now, with that hook stage, we start progressing into the pressure. We now need a rescuer, and we start the debate. Who's moving away from the generator first? How do we set that up? And we also already have Pedro in the next chase here, who is luckily able to dodge the power, because we really don't want to have any additional and unnecessary injuries right here. But Pedro can feel good for now. We do have a little bit of a setup here on the top side, and we have still 5 generators standing. So you could push Xeno into the second stage without losing too much here, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's worth noting too, as we continue spreading the pressure, because Marco has refused to cleanse here yet, and understandably so, don't want to hand over more pressure to Pedro. There's another entered state that's more slowdown on those gens, as we do have the nanophobia hanging around in the background. You've been able to put Pedro down. Now you're going to continue chase here with Xeno, looking to try and complete the tunnel out. This could be huge here.
That could be huge indeed. Pedro on the ground, Xeno next. Marco cannot really help, so the only one is Silhey, done with the inspection of the pallets. And now back onto the body block train here. Stun coming out, that's a good choice regardless. You don't really need that resource now. You need to stun Pedro and need to make sure that he loses time and distance so he wouldn't commit. And I also understand why he's returning back here, right? It is the area you're defending right now with your 3-gen. If we count the generator in the midsection on the right side, we might even call it a 3.5-gen. I wouldn't call it a 4-gen, but a 3.5-gen sounds fair here. So you really want to make sure you keep that hook stage. And so I understand why he went back and basically works with what's guaranteed for now.
Call this middle one a half gen, a whole gen. Looks like it's going to be no gen here in just a minute, as Marco will be able to wrap that thing up here in just a moment. Does mean, though, you still have the 3 gen, as you had mentioned, down here on this main building side. Xeno did get progressed, if I'm not mistaken, despite what is showing on our HUD there. So now you have the ability to get yet another fresh hook as Xeno, or no, it's not a fresh hook, sorry, that's Xeno that is moving back in. This is a dangerous, wait, why is Xeno the one coming in for the save here, Dyer?
Because Xeno is something else. Xeno has his own little tactic and strategy, and he plays with so much confidence also today that I feel like he maybe isn't even fully aware of the risk that he's taking here. But he definitely is up to something. Maybe also working as a bait a little bit, because when you see it as Pedro, right, you really have it in your mind. There's Xeno. This is kind of the survivor I'm looking forward to chase here. So maybe playing a little bit with the mental here. But now Pedro in the second stage. So we have our tunnel out target.
We have our tunnel target here, so let's see if you have the ability. I mean, you have 2 options here, but it looks like Pedro is going to be the one you'll want to stick with. Pedro will be able to swing back, has a small pallet to be able to work around, and I did want to correct myself. I think I had mentioned earlier, I thought Xeno had been progressed. I'm actually being updated that was wrong, so I don't want to give wrong information to you, but sticking with Pedro, here is the right call. We saw getting the Corrupt Purge. Thanks to that amulet, we'll have an extra 20 seconds of the power to use, but it's got everyone heading their way over towards Shack side here, Dyer.
Yeah, this is important, right? You want to make it out of the 3-gen area. You want to pull the killer away here, because it is not only the hook stage that you gain up here, right? Together with the hook stage inside of that generator setup, you basically allow the killer to monitor the generators and the progression of the hook stage at the same time. Marco going down here. That's why he's called L Marco and not W Marco, taking the hook stage here. And that's now basically the reset back into this unfortunate situation, right? We just tried to pull the killer away, and Pedro said, no, I prefer my setup here. Come back, take the hook stage.
This is where the discipline of a very experienced killer comes into play, because some people would get tempted by another hook stage and you want to just run away from your position that you've already played yourself into, but you've done a great job of committing to your setup down on this side of the map. You might as well full send for now. Xeno will get hit, tried to use the tree as a line of sight blocker. Unfortunately, can't think skinny enough, and Xeno will have to escape down towards that Shack side. We'll see another gen get completed, but it's not one of the 3 that are down here on this main side. So Pedro can continue to just simply protect this hook.
Yeah, and if they don't make that happen, that they pull him out of this area here as they tried beforehand, I do think it is difficult. They do get a little bit of progress over here, so that's definitely the counterplay that we need. Understandable that they keep the generator down there untouched for now, because we pointed out earlier, as long as you have 4 survivors, you want to make sure that you break the difficult generator setup, because when you're just 3 or 2 survivors, you don't need to try it anymore. Then it's a little bit too late and too difficult. So it's understandable that they prioritize here, and Pedro also notices that. He's now taking a lot more looks on the generators and getting a little bit nervous, but Xeno has no other choice but just going into the corner of the map right here, wasting a few more seconds. Are they potentially double, tripling up on the generator, inviting uncles and hamsters to quadruple the gen? The answer is kinda. They tried to get it, and they're actually not able to. So I feel like that was almost the final attempt to get it, Q.
That was their chance there, but way too much Thanatophobia value there. I mean, what, 12% slowdown on that gen ends up being just enough. Now you've got Marco with an injured state here as well, trying the best that they can to work main building. Will eventually work their way towards the edge of the map as well, doing a great job of making a lot with a little, but eventually will go down. Enough time to be able to get Xeno off the hook, but still another hook buried deep down here on side of this main building, but they were at least able to get that 1 gen complete. That 3 gen has been broken.
Yeah, and I hope he calculated that correctly, right? Because he could have definitely interrupted that generator, but it was clearly the thought process now with the elimination coming through, catching Marco up here, the hook stage I have enough pressure now to win this for my team. That's why I allow the 3-gen to be broken. And I hope he calculated that carefully, because we are not at the win con just yet. We have 7 stages on 3 at the moment, but we need 10 on 4. Yeah, 10 is automatically on 4. But we need 3 more stages overall, so he hopefully calculated that correctly.
Yeah, you got to make sure that you can collect up these other couple that are left. I mean, you do have a couple of these fountains down here where you can get your corrupt purge. What you would really like to do would be finding Silhe, because they are worth 3 stages. So if you can get that down and secure the elimination, that's curtains there. You are going to be able to put Xeno down on the ground here, though, so that will be 8 hooks. The next one will at least give you the tie, and maybe even potentially with where this hook is going, you get to check in on this gen that's down here on this side of the map. Unfortunately, though, from first glance, it didn't look like there was too much progress, and now you got to hoof it back towards main.
So we actually see a 2v1 now, where we need another generator coming out, and where we only have basically 1 more stage, 2 more stages right now, so it's going to be tricky. Silhe taking the injury right here, Pedro following up immediately onto that, and yeah, that's just going to be the decision now. So Invictus, ladies and gentlemen, does take it back here on the suffocation pit. This is now 9 stages on 4. We are now with the tie here. So basically, Pedro needs to get Silhe off the hook, and both need to walk out of the door in order to tie. And Q, I will lean myself far out of the window. This is not happening.
Yeah, it would take a really big fumble here from Pedro to be able to do it. There is no one left behind, which can potentially come into play here, but the big thing that also does not help at all, you saw those doors so far away. Pedro has not been able to get any of the doors started yet either. We'll take a corrupt purge hit there, which means 1 more to be able to establish the down. Is going to be able to get the unhook here, but even with that next hook, will secure things done. You technically don't even need to put Silhe down, but hey, you know what? You've got plenty of map space. Why not go for 1 more loop around the TNL? The life ain't gonna get you nowhere there, buddy. Silly gets put back down on the ground, and it will indeed be a 4K to force us to the Doctor set.
And it is, considering that we have the Doctor here, a shocking result. That we have to go actually into set number 9, and it is now either Invictus taking it back to the Artist after the Doctor if they win it, or the Doctor seals the deal. Q and the Analysts, what are your thoughts about the upcoming set?
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting here, because now you're at this situation where for Invictus, every trial that they continue to put up good results, weirdly enough, puts that pressure back over into the Elysium laps here. So I think the important thing is for going to be them to come out on the Doctor side. The Doctor gives us a lot of unique sort of play, though.
Thank you everyone for supporting DBDLeague. One part of the next chapter is also getting some content creators involved, and Invictus is kind of playing against the odds. Hence, we have to discuss if they are able to put up some spooky loops on the survivor side now, in order to make sure that we have some iconic gameplay and sailing flightless through the trial into success here. So let's hope that they say, I pick a good strategy, and Marco will be the first one who is potentially also testing if the bus is unbugged. The answer is no. We just go straight towards the shack here. And you, what? I was just about to say, when you are about to have the match point, you hopefully make a safe and square and fine first chase, and then Marco says, well, I have a different idea today. Why? That is so bad for trial 17.
Marco, tell me how that one tastes. That's an unfortunate early down. Luckily, though, for Elysium, they were at least able to get that first gen done. Big Static Blast will at least be able to give you the location of both Pedro and Zeno here. So despite the early down, you are only you do already see one gen in exchange for that. You also have Sile and Pedro both already starting to crank that thing, trying to find gens 2 and 3 as well. It even looks like maybe, just maybe, might be committing to the gens. Zeno's now on a gen as well.
Yeah, we really need to have an answer to what just happened. Marco definitely with the unfortunate situation there in the early game. Unfortunately, with taking it down way too early, putting way too much pressure on the teammates. I'm really sorry to also call it out that harshly, but if you are about to have the match point, you need to play differently, Q.
Yeah, that's very true. At some point, you have to stop playing aggressive. You have to stop taking risks. And look, I get it. Part of what makes Elysium good is taking risks and at time winning those risks that you shouldn't be taking and being able to build up your momentum from there. But you've already got the momentum on your side. You only need to win one more set. If anything, you should be playing basic DBD and forcing Invictus to have to try and force the issue and be able to push the pace, because otherwise, especially a team that has the experience of Invictus, they will be able to capitalize on those mistakes. They've already done so a little bit here recently, so for good reason. You understand for the side of Elysium here, at least in this trial, wanting to just simply bang out the gens. Looks like potentially giving up Marco, but I don't think they've got enough pressure on the gens. They have to find a way to get the save here.
Marco about to say goodbye to us, and the save the best for last just rises and rises there. That's also what Elysium latest realized now after 4 stacks. It is easy to call out. So we are turning into a killing machine here. Nice shock there. Survivor not opting to drop, so that's the next one. Q, is it safe to say things are falling apart here on the final stretch towards the crown?
Well, I think if we remember back to the pre-show when we were at the campfire, the one big thing that Ratz kept talking about was the glass cannon. We know just how much firepower this Elysium squad has, but we also know how brittle they can sometimes be when it comes to the vibes starting to fall. And it feels like that could very well be the case for now. You've got an elimination down here for Pedro. You only need to be able to feel like you figure you get to a couple more stages. You're vibing for now. I feel like Pedro's got to be feeling good with where they're at in this trial.
Yeah, we need something huge. Like Silhey needs to recreate 5 pallets and need to make sure that we have such a long run, but even that doesn't work out. Now we do take the hit right here. The only good news is that you basically reduce the tokens on the save the best for last a little bit with taking a okay, but we don't see even the long chases queue, something where we can say, hey, that's a crazy comeback potential. That is something where you keep the killer busy, right? It's just, it's not it right now.
Yeah, right now
They're
it looks like right now Pedro is the only one who has any sort of progress on a gen, and we're not even a quarter of a way on that one here. And we will see that they have another gen that was a little closer to 75, as we did see that Pain Res end up hitting that one. Got it close back to that 50, or just past the 50%. I guess the good news at least here, yeah, Pedro surrendered a couple of those stacks on the save the best for last, but now you will be able to continue to build them on whoever moves in for the save. It's not like Silhey can come in and take those from you now, and I think that also goes to show the confidence that Pedro has with where they're at in this trial. Instead of breaking chase and going and looking for Pedro or Zeno to try and continue to build up their stacks, they're like, you know what, I'll take my second fresh hook, because they still have 2 more gens to go.
And I'm telling you, Q, if this goes into the artist set again, because that was the tight one, and Invictus pulls this entire thing, Marco will not sleep well tonight. Because this Doctor set here from the beginning, like all of what we see right now that we talk about, a recovery is needed, the generators are not ready yet, we have some hook time, etc. All of this is the result of playing this greedy shack palette at the beginning, where I still disagree, because you need to make sure that you just go for the best pressure possible.
Well, big blast gonna come out here. Silhey will be forced into a second stage. Pedro gonna be a little too close here. He'll be hit by Pedro. A little bit of Pedro on Pedro aggression, I guess you could say, as that will allow for an additional stack of save the best for last. But I don't think Pedro is worried about that for now. With the fact that Silhey has been progressed into that third or that second stage, it means another down, and it'll be down to a 2v1.
And now the stun coming through here, a little bit of a comeback chance for a long run. Hopefully they are able to go for it here. But the head-on now also showing us that they definitely have an idea here, if only they wouldn't suffer so much from the beginning of the trial. Pedro here against Pedro, the 1v1 standoff of the Pedros, and the winner is very clear. That's the Invictus Pedro.
I was going to say at least one thing was guaranteed, was that Pedro was winning that 1v1. But I do got to say, with the way that these gens are looking and the way that Pedro continues to be able to get these relatively quick downs, I don't know if they break this 3-gen here, Dyer. I feel like you're going to, one, continue to be able to, well, that will be now an additional pain res hook, but two, you should be able to consistently keep pressure down with both the static blast and shocks, but instead it will be a nice quick save from Zeno. Pedro will insert themselves between the two players to try to be able to create a little bit of safety, but the only problem is that takes time away from that little extra invulnerability that you get off of the hook, that little borrow time that has been built in. So now it's 3 injured players. Pedro gets his free pickings on whoever survivor he wants.
And I would really hope for Elysium that they get at least one more generator out of the way, because a 4K1 telling Invictus, guys, we are on the road to the crown. All you need to do to stop us from doing it is all the generators against the Doctor. That's crazy. Zeno here juicing a little bit, but unfortunately the survivors, that should, okay, now with that rock, it is actually going to be enough. So at least Zeno bringing it back to the final generator being completed. That is, I would say, the absolute minimum here. Hopefully Silhey gets out of the door.
That was huge, and it all starts from the very quick pull from Zeno, right? Because Pedro has been forced into that second stage, so obviously Pedro's going to want to try to remove them, or maybe even get the other fresh hook, which just left Silhey in M1 simulation. You just had to make sure you hit some skill checks, and if there's anything our competitive DBD players can do, it's definitely do that. It allows for them to get the gens done, but what's interesting is we went from what looked like a 4K1 to very well getting stages out the door. It feels like there's been enough time. I don't think Pedro gets there, especially with the heartbeat being close. We're not seeing any progression as far as on a door from Silhey here, though, so maybe not. Maybe there's still a saving grace here for Pedro.
And both of them have 2 more stages on them, so we should be good with whoever is leaving the trial. I mean, it would be crazy if Pedro and Silhey would leave the trial, because then I would feel like Pedro is... They are both escaping.
Feels like this is a big mistake here, Dyer. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it feels like that felt definitely like we should not see 4 stages walking out of the door when Silhey just last second basically got the generator done. Like, there was so much pressure. That feels wrong. Maybe the analysts can shed light on that.
Yeah, let's bring them in chat, because it definitely felt like the 4K1 was all but assured there. I had seen someone in the back talk about how even just allowing the 5th gen to pop would have been a throw, let alone allowing stages out the door. I mean, Ratz, what happened from what you saw?
About to get 4K there, and we talked about it. Unfortunately, the chase with the Zeno lasted way too long, speaking from the POV of Invictus here. So let's see if Zeno will be able to show us some sort of 4K here and able to keep the Invictus survivors under control. Sloppy is being brought to the trial to make sure that the survivors have to waste more time on a potential reset, and that also kind of punishes for taking hits for one another. So it is definitely telling us that he inspects some very coordinated gameplay.
And understandably so, right? You're going against Invictus, a squad that often likes to throw bodies at you to try and keep those first downs from coming in quickly. Zeno will be blessed with a very nice hit there for the first start of this run. Now trying to use that shock therapy to keep Pedro from making their way back around. Avoids getting them through the window. Zeno finds a first down here. Super quick. And you know, something that's going to be interesting here is Zeno has the ability to do something pretty darn cool. This is trial number 100 on the DBDL season. Has the potential to be able to call themselves champion in trial number 100.
I really hope things are working a little bit better, because this early game with the quick down and then being hit by the pain res is tricky. Zeno's 100th game this season, 60 on Survivor, 40 on Killer, so it's also the chance to really, with that anniversary, right? Stop it right here. You can end the season. You can end season 10. Obviously, we don't want to do it. We rather watch some tiebreakers until 6 a.m. in the morning. But for Zeno, it would definitely be a good goal to achieve here. And with that first hook stage onto Pedro so early, you definitely feel strong and confident. Dan and the relocating here, making sure that he doesn't get caught from the Doctor too quickly. Rocket is going to finish the generator in the distance, so we do get it started. Spits over 50% on another generator as well, but kind of same as in the previous trial queue, we struggle because of a quick early down, so we need a serious chase with a long duration in the mid game.
Yeah, who's going to be the one to be able to take Zeno for a nice trip around the wretched the wretched shop here? That's going to be the real question. Dan the Man seems to be the one who has been at least tapped in for now. Will be making their way here over towards the crane. Will be able to get that pallet down, but because of the strength of that tile, Zeno says, you know what, I ain't too worried about it. Gonna be able to use this static blast here, looking for some way somehow to be able to track Pedro down, because if you can find him and put him on the ground, that's a very early elimination.
That is indeed the case. Rocket grinding the generator in the distance, and Pedro on the run. We need a very long one, and we basically need to turn into Iron Man, who that will save the entire team here. But how will it work out with the pallet also that is already dropped? A few good shocks here from Zeno, and you are able to make sure that Pedro cannot really use this tile. He does get the window though, because Zeno opts to go for the pallet. A little bit of over peeking on that part of the tile. Rocket coming in. That's going to be a very necessary protection, because now Pedro reaches this pallet, able to drop it, making the loop longer, wasting more time. Huge gameplay right now from Invictus.
Yeah, this is the juice here that you were needing. Pedro making a play around the pallet, but unfortunately opts to vault over red by Zeno, and that will be GG's for Pedro here in trial number 18. Leaves it down to a 3v1, and right now Invictus still needs 2 more gens.
And this is actually going to be closer than we thought here. 2 generators as 3 people is difficult. The Doctor, luckily a weaker killer, but we also already used quite some resources on the Ratz chop, right? Zeno needs to be careful now. He cannot pick a chase that lasts too long. We have seen the horrendous impact that can happen.
Gotta be confident here, though. You have to be very short in your skills. You have to just basically play your game the way that you are expecting, I feel like, if you're Zeno. Gotta set the stage, though. It's interesting here for Zeno having the ability to potentially end things here in his own hands for a player who often, I feel like when it comes to DBDL seasons, has finished second. Having the ability to do so on the Doctor would be huge for them here. Taking a nice little trip around this tile here with Spitz, who will eventually take the M1. Of course, that little tap on the back will give Spitz that little burst of speed to be able to make their way towards Shaq. Shaq pallet goes down, and well, because of that, Zeno will break chase and decides to monitor the gens here a little bit. It's been a while since we've seen a gen pop.
It's been indeed, and we can only hope that there's individual generator grind going on behind the scenes, because Rocket is definitely pulling quite an impressive chase here. Now with the firecracker as well, unfortunately not landing, but he does make sure that Xeno is a little bit busy here in this chase. He has delayed as long as possible. At some point with these shocks, you will not be able to utilize another pallet here, but now going down, and that's going to be, unfortunately, another pain res on that final generator that still stands in the trial. Spitz is also staying injured for quite some time now, so we have the priority, but they're just starting generator 5. Q!
Yeah, that's the one that got hit by that pain res. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. I feel like you still probably came out on the better side of things. Had you not gotten that last gen complete, you would have had more time to crack into gen number 5. Yeah, sure, but then you'd still be needing 2 gens to be complete. So while not being the most ideal situation, I'm sure Invictus will take it for now. Shock therapy going to be sent across the way as Xeno looking to try and hunt down a survivor. Any survivor, as Rocket still hanging on hook number 1. You can see there is a survivor that was off in the distance. Has been doing a pretty good job of keeping themselves safe. That's Dan the Man, who will look to try and buy some time for Invictus. They need a juicer run here. I almost can't help but wonder what the decision has been, because you feel like Spitz should have been able to come in for the save for now, but instead with Dan taking chase back behind the wretched shop, that might just be Spitz trying to commit to the gen.
Yeah, and we then need to hope for some magic in the end game, right? Because right now things really point towards Elysium being the champions of the biggest DBD tournament that was played to date, with a prize pool of $20,000. And Xeno, you mentioned it, quite often coming out on the second place, and where a lot of people have also said today Invictus will be stronger, but this would be so huge for Xeno in particular, but the entire team Elysium here winning that biggest event that we have ever seen in Dead by Daylight. And right now, Q, he's definitely close to reaching that goal.
While it wouldn't be Xeno's first DBDLeague season championship, it would be Elysium's first as a team. And also, I think it was you actually, Dyer, on stream last weekend was talking about how we had issues with a perk that had turned down a championship season. That was actually the one that Xeno happened to win. So I'm sure Xeno, loving the fact that they're going to be able to pull home the championship here with no stress, no drama, just the fact that Xeno came out and simply played better.
Yeah, right. Elysium looked over along a lot of these games today a little bit more consistent. If we look a little bit deeper already, without stealing it too much from the analysts here, we have seen Invictus popping off today multiple times, where we said, like, this is Invictus doing Invictus things, they are crazy, and so on. But it happened in set 3 onwards. The first 2 sets were clearly dominated by Elysium, and even then later we had a few problems here and there, some unexpected outs like we just have seen in the Doctor trial, some hatches in the end game not finding the target when Pedro was trying to secure the sages. And I feel like Elysium was able today to minimize these mistakes a little bit, and in the long run that does lead into winning or losing a best of 9. But so far, ladies and gentlemen, it is not over. We don't need to get ahead of ourselves. 4 more stages, Q, on at least also Spitz being involved as an individual survivor. 4 more stages, now 3 more stages, and then we have the tie. So still a bit more work to do.
It is some work, but it definitely feels like it is all but over. I mean, that hook was in the middle of the 3 gen, so while they were able to at some point find the saves, it definitely feels like they probably weren't able to get as much progress into those gens as they would like. A nice fake at the window by Spitz allows them to make 1 more revolution around, but I mean, at this point, you've had so many chases throughout the course of this wretched shop map that I don't think that there's very many resources left. I don't think that there's enough tools at the disposal here for Invictus to be able to get the length and chases that they need in order to force us back to ARP.
That's going to be the hook onto Spitz. That is going to be individual survivor number 4. So now it's only about the hook counter basically. We have 7 at the moment. Dan is going down. Dan is only one more stage, but that also means we are now entering the 2v1 scenario. 8 stages on 4. So we need to catch either Rocket or Spitz, camp them into death, and then we are the winner of Season 10, the biggest tournament of DBD to date. And there's Spitz. Spitz is injured. Spitz is nice. Spitz is a role model for a lot of people in this community, but unfortunately Spitz is now also downed and a little bit powerless against Xeno, who really just goes through, and Rocket is being found, ladies and gentlemen. Season 10, 20k on the line, the biggest event over 14 weekends, and after 20 trials in this grand final, we are entering the most likely final chase with Rocket here, and that is Elysium on the final meters of the Crown Highway. They did it. They made it. What a grand final into all 9 sets.
Got to see this thing go the distance, and it only felt fitting because we did not get to see set number 7 in either of our matches last weekend between these two teams in the grand final. So to see this go the distance definitely feels very, very fitting. Also feels so fitting that in a DBD league, where often when we talk about the GOATs, especially on the killer side of things, often the talk was between Nightlight or potentially maybe even Zaka Da Monster here in the past. But Xeno, who in the past has had so many second place finishes, not only able to finish and finish strong on the killer side with the 4K, but let's not forget that just one trial ago, it was Xeno who was able to take Pedro on a masterclass of a run, winning 50 after 50, meaning that Xeno is truly the MVP.
Absolutely, yeah, on the Survivor trial and the Killer trial, absolutely insane. I also want to point out for the entire best of 9, this one unfortunate restart we had today because of a game bug. That was a set Invictus took from Elysium, so there is no unfortunate influence at all. We are saying thank you to a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen. It is special to be here on the casting desk. It is also special when you are the event manager involved, seeing how all of this was involved, and it's a very great experience to make. So first of all, thank you to Savannah supporting with the event management there. Then we say thank you to Kasi, the 3rd commissioner on the DBDL roster, taking care of a lot of things behind the scenes, so things are going smoothly. Then I want to say thank you to our producer, who is Devin D. Rollock on Discord, who has streamed an unbelievable majority of this tournament back to back on the weekends with a lot of hours. Huge thank you.